Chapter 130. A pile of steaming hot feces fell onto the snowy ground. It had a diameter of 1 meter and was still emitting steam. It quickly melted the snow around it and seemed to be full of energy. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the other royal guards observed it for a long time. Wei Chou muttered, "The color and smell of the feces should be that of a wild boar. A wild boar that can poop out such a big pile can't be small. Moreover, it probably went out to look for food and didn't walk too fast. We just need to follow the smell and footprints to find it." As he spoke, Wei Chou sniffed his nose. He really didn't expect this brat to have this kind of skill. Lin Muyu laughed and said, "All right, Wei Chou, lead the way, let's go quickly." The group followed Wei Chou and quickly entered the sea of snow to search. They didn't even walk half a mile before they heard a hoo-hoo sound in front of them. They saw a huge creature digging its way through the snow and then devouring the wild grass buried under the snow. It looked very funny with its butt sticking out, but its body was definitely huge and looked like a small mountain. "Wow," Wei Chou beamed with joy and said, "Let's not talk about 1,000 jin for this wild boar. Looking at its size, it should be at least 5,000 jin, right? It's almost a spirit." It was indeed a spirit. There were 2 golden lines on the head of this wild boar. It was a 2,000-year-old wild boar. A boar that could live for so long must have had enough to eat for many meals. In an instant, Lin Muyu thought of the wild boar that her father took her to eat when she was young. It was firm and tasty, far better than reared pork. She suddenly felt that this 2,000-year-old wild boar in front of her was actually very cute. Wei Chou raised his hand and smiled as he ordered, "Surround it and block the path of this wild boar. Everyone be careful, don't use arrows or weapons to attack because this boar will be used for the winter sacrifice ceremony. The carcass cannot be damaged and must be knocked unconscious. Do you understand?" A group of royal guards whistled as they rode their horses forward. Wei Chou raised his long sword and rushed forward. He was the one in charge of the hunting mission this time. Lin Muyu had already lost an arm, so he couldn't work anymore. However, Lin Muyu still urged her horse forward slowly. After all, the wild boar was a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. Wei Chou would definitely be able to defeat it, but it was hard to say if he could capture it without any losses. The group of royal guards began to clamor. Immediately, the wild boar raised its head and looked at everyone with its cute face. It felt that they had come with ill intentions. These humans all looked like hungry ghosts that had entered a pork shop. Hoo-hoo, the wild boar began to run for its life, but it was quickly pushed back by Wei Chou's true qi. It hurriedly turned around and ran for its life again. Lin Muyu couldn't stand it anymore. She raised her hand and a gourd vine suddenly broke out of the snow and tied up the wild boar tightly. She waved her right fist from afar and demon sound fist flew through the air. After a pung sound, the 2,000-year-old wild boar fell to the ground with a miserable howl. In just an instant, its heart had already been shattered by Lin Muyu's demon sound fist. There was no way it could struggle. It died just like that? Wei Chou was stunned. Oh right, how could it not die after being hit by demon sound fist? Lin Muyu was a little proud, but she tried not to show it. Demon sound fist? Wei Chou was shocked. That's the secret technique of white robe Chu-Chu? Lin Muyu nodded. When I was cultivating in Silver Fir City, I learned from Chu for a short period of time. He was the one who personally taught me the demon sound fist. Wei Chou immediately looked at Lin Muyu with not only respect, but also admiration. After all, Chu-Chu was one of the few experts on the continent. Although no one knew how many Sacred Realm experts there were in the Shattered Cauldron Realm, there were only 2 who served the Empire. One was Chu-Chu, the other was Lei Hong. Of course, there was also Zhen Yifan. It was just that these people didn't know that a divine overlord had such a cultivation. Lin Muyu had once studied under Chu-Chu. Just this fact alone was enough to make these royal guards respect him. "Let me try." Wei Chou walked forward and inserted both of his hands into the snow. Holding the boar's corpse, true qi flowed throughout his body as he growled, "Get up!" Rustle? The snow moved, but the wild boar's carcass didn't move at all. Another imperial guard laughed heartily. "Wei Chou, This wild boar is at least 4 to 5,000 catties in weight. How can you lift it by yourself? Someone, drag the cart over. One of you will be in charge of shoveling the snow and clearing the path. We're going back to Lanyan City. Seeing the wild boar being moved onto the cart, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She brushed the snow off her shoulders and felt that this world of ice and snow was a bit more leisurely. At least she didn't have to worry about scheming against each other here, unlike staying in Lanyan City. Whether it was Xing Yifan, Xiang Yu, Zhen Fang, Luo Xing, or the others, everyone was scheming against her and couldn't wait to kill her. Compared to Lanyan City, Xiaoyao was much more at ease in the dragon-seeking forest. However, there were Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Chu Huaying, and Zhang Wei in Lanyan City, but there were no close friends in the dragon-seeking forest. This was probably the reason why life was not as good as 8 or 9 out of 10. Although the wheels of the cart were big, the mountainous terrain was too rugged. There were many places where it couldn't be dragged over, so they could only be carried by manpower. A wild boar that weighed 5,000 catties was not easy to carry. 5 royal guards and 15 royal guards, a total of 20 people, barely managed to lift it. Along the way, they broke countless crossbars. The speed of the return journey wasn't fast. A 4-day journey on horseback took nearly half a month. Fortunately, they were still able to make it in time for the winter's sacrifice ceremony. On the 6th day after being injured, Lin Muyu's arm was back to normal. He used the spirit pulse technique to look inside his body and found that the bones had completely healed and were no different from before. As a result, he was itching to carry the wild boar with the royal guards. Fortunately, the snow hadn't stopped yet, so the wild boar's carcass wouldn't stink. However, under Wei Chao's suggestion, they still emptied the wild boar's innards. On the way back to Lanyan City, it would probably be air-dried into a giant piece of cured meat. When they were about 200 miles away from the capital, the snow finally stopped. The sky cleared up, and the sun shone on a group of tired people. Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, escorting the cart behind him. "Sir, we will reach Lanyan City in a day's time." Wei Chou said joyfully, "It should be the first time in the history of the Eagle Nest camp that we have completed all the patrolling missions in one go. I wonder how happy the commander will be." Lin Muyu smiled. "It doesn't matter how happy the commander will be. We don't want to be meritorious, but we want to make no mistakes." "Yes, sir is right." Wei Chou grinned and said, "There must be a lot of people in the Eagle Nest camp who are laughing at us. They probably won't think that we can complete all the missions in a month." "Yes, that's right." At this moment, suddenly there was a jejia sound in the sky, followed by a white bird flapping its wings and landing directly on Lin Muyu's shoulder. He knew this bird. It was a messenger bird raised by Chu Yao. Its name was Little White. Because there were a few strange spots on its neck, Lin Muyu recognized it. She lifted one of the legs of the messenger bird and took out a piece of paper from the tube. There was a line of beautiful handwriting on it. "You, how did the mission go? When will you be back?" It was signed by Chu Yao, and her handwriting was very beautiful. Wei Chou craned his neck to take a look and said with a smile, "It seems that there is a wonderful person in Lanyan City who is worried about you, sir." Lin Muyu glanced at him. "If you don't want to get beaten up, don't talk so much." Wei Chou smiled and walked away. Lin Muyu wrote on the back of the paper with a burnt branch, "I will be back soon. I will see you in Lanyan City. Lin Muyu." The messenger bird flapped its wings and flew away. This messenger bird had the blood of both Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. It was like the bond between the two of them, and Lin Muyu treasured it very much. A day later, they arrived at Lanyan City when it was almost dusk. However, they couldn't enter the city and had to go to the Eagle Nest barracks first. On the mountain road, a few imperial guards were lighting a brazier and adding fuel to it. When Lin Muyu and the others appeared on the mountain road, a winged cavalry warrior immediately galloped up the mountain and shouted, "Sir Lin Muyu's troops have returned to the barracks to submit their orders." As soon as he shouted, a lot of people came to watch the troops that had been out for nearly a month. Lin Muyu's bag was filled with a lot of spirit stones, so they naturally couldn't see it. However, the huge wild boar on the trailer at the back shocked everyone. Even the experienced imperial guards had never seen such a huge wild boar. A group of people pointed at it with joy on their faces. After all, if Lin Muyu and the others completed their mission, they wouldn't have to run around and be tired anymore. When they entered the barracks, the commander of the Eagle Nest Barracks, Meng Fong, came out to welcome them. He smiled and cupped his fists. "Sir Lin Muyu, you've worked hard on this trip." Lin Muyu said respectfully, "Fortunately, we didn't fail you. We have brought the things back. I don't know how heavy the wild boar behind us is, but it must be more than 500 kilograms. Meng Fong's eyes were like torches. He laughed and said, "This wild boar will be at least 2,000 kilograms after its internal organs are removed. Ha, even His Majesty will be happy to see such a huge wild boar as an offering. It's just that, have you obtained the required spirit stones?" Everyone understood that it was easy to kill a wild boar, but it wasn't so easy to hunt a spirit beast that was more than 5,000 years old. Even Meng Fong might not be able to complete the task, let alone a team consisting of Lin Muyu and the others. Just as Lin Muyu was about to take out the spirit stones to hand over the order, someone suddenly rode up the mountain. He held a dark blue flag with a purple flower emblem in his hand and said, "Lin Muyu of the Eagle Nest Barracks, receive the order." Lin Muyu was stunned. She turned around and said respectfully, "I'm here." The messenger smiled and said, "Her Highness heard that Sir Lin has returned to Lanyan City, so she specially arranged a banquet at the Phoenix Perching Hall and invited Sir Lin to attend the banquet immediately. In addition, she asked me to tell you that Princess She is also there." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She didn't expect Qin Yin's message to be so fast. She knew when she arrived at Lanyan City. "Then wait until I hand over the order first, sir." The messenger smiled and said, "Her Highness said that she invited you to Zetian Hall without stopping. As for handing over the order, you can wait for a while, right?" Meng Fong hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Of course, Her Highness's matter is the most important. Sir Lin Muyu, you can go with him first." "Sir." Lin Muyu cupped her hands in a humble manner. She pulled the reins and rushed down the mountain with the messenger. Chapter 131. In the Zetian Palace, many palace servants were sweeping away the snow. It was the first sign of sunshine after the heavy snow. Everyone seemed to be in a good mood, and their faces were brimming with smiles. Lin Muyu had an Eagle Guard waist tag, so he went straight to the Phoenix Perching Palace. When he arrived at the front of the Phoenix Perching Palace, he saw the beautiful figures of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi standing in the snow from afar. They were already waiting for him. He got off the horse, and Tang Xiaoxi had already walked up to him. She smiled and said, "Mu, are you all right in the dragon-seeking forest? I heard from the guards that you were injured when you were fighting a 6,200-year-old golden-scaled beast in the dragon-seeking forest." "I've already recovered." Lin Muyu patted his chest and said with a smile, "A mere spirit beast is not a problem for me. I've already brought the spirit stones back, but they need to be verified by the commander of the Eagle's Nest before they can be delivered to the Zetian Palace." As he spoke, he walked over to Qin Yin and performed a handsome Empire's military salute. He said, "Greetings, Your Highness." Qin Yin giggled. She walked up to him and held his wrist. She smiled faintly and said, "Ayu, when did our relationship become so estranged? Why didn't I know?" Lin Muyu smiled. "I know I was wrong. Well, I was summoned here as soon as I returned to the Eagle's Nest camp. I didn't even have the time to hand in my orders. Is there anything important?" "Yes." Qin Yin nodded seriously and said with a smile, "Xiao Shi and I have invited you to our meat fruit feast. Come quickly. You've just returned to Lanyan City, so Xiao Shi and I will hold a feast for you." "Huh, such a good thing. Is there anything delicious to eat?" "You'll know when you come." "Thank you, Your Highness." She followed the princess and the princess into Phoenix Perching Hall. Along the way, the palace maids all took a second look at Lin Muyu, who was dressed in the Sacred Hall's battle robes. After all, most of the royal guards were cultivators between the ages of 30 and 50. Many of them were uncles and had decent strength, but they were unbearably rough. They were simply unsightly. It was extremely rare to see a royal guard like Lin Muyu, who was strong but had dashing eyebrows and bright eyes. There were only 3 of them, Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying and Lin Muyu. Seeing the palace maids smiling at them from afar, Lin Muyu felt uncomfortable all over. He felt like he was being watched like a monkey. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to see through his thoughts. She turned around and walked over gracefully, holding his hand as she followed Qin Yin. In the main hall of Phoenix Perching Hall, waves of fragrance wafted into their nostrils. What came into view were several exquisite gold-threaded silver wooden tables around a stove. There were all kinds of rare fruits on the tables, and the palace maids were roasting a deer leg. The fragrance was alluring. Lin Muyu had been out and about for the past month, and had never had such treatment before. Suddenly, he felt his stomach growl again. Qin Yin smiled slightly. Xiaoxi, take a seat. Lin Muyu sat on the ground and cupped his fists respectfully. Thank you, Your Highness. Qin Yin frowned slightly and said with some displeasure, there are only the 3 of us here. You should just call me Xiao Yin. But Lin Muyu didn't dare to overstep his boundaries. But what? Qin Yin retorted. You can call Princess Xiaoxi, but can't you call me Your Highness Xiao Yin? You in your heart, am I, Qin Yin, really that hard to get close to? Actually, compared to your current respectful attitude, I prefer the attitude you had towards me in the dragon-seeking forest. Do you understand? Lin Muyu was stunned. He thought about his attitude towards Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest. He seemed to treat her as an ordinary girl, so he was very relaxed. Now, he was indeed too respectful. He was an unruly fellow, so he smiled and said, Then I will call you Xiao Yin when there are no outsiders around. But you can't push me out of the Zetian Palace Hall and execute me in front of everyone if you're unhappy one day. Qin Yin burst into laughter. She gracefully lifted the hem of her skirt and performed a beautiful ladle-like bow to Lin Muyu. She smiled faintly and said, I will do as you bid. Please don't be angry, Your Highness. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Qin Yin was actually the same as Tang Xiaoxi. Although she was born in a royal family, she still retained the innocence and purity of a young girl. She didn't have the unruly, cruel, and ruthless temperament of a noble's child. This was really admirable. Can I eat it now? He looked at the deer leg, drooling with desire. Qin Yin smiled. Eat it, eat it. You definitely didn't get to eat these things in the dragon-seeking forest for so many days. More. Lin Muyu raised his hand and pulled out the burning prairie sword to cut the meat, but it gave Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi a fright. Tang Xiaoxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she took out a table knife from the plate and said, Idiot Mu, use this. The burning prairie sword is used to kill enemies, not to eat. Oh, but... Lin Muyu put away the burning prairie sword awkwardly, then picked up the table knife and cut a piece of venison. She put it in her mouth and chewed slowly. Immediately, the fresh and delicious taste and the tempting greasy taste entered her throat. This deer leg had been processed many times, and there were countless condiments on it. Obviously, it was not something the meat soup they cooked in the dragon-seeking forest could compare to. Her appetite was great, and she ate 2 large pieces of venison in a row. Here, this is the freshly warmed Yinhua wine. Tang Xiaoxi poured wine for him. Before the wine entered his throat, he could already smell a faint fragrance. That was the smell of the Yinhua. No wonder the Qin Empire would confer the Yinhua as the empire's symbol. Not only could the Yinhua be used as medicine and food, but it could also be used to make wine. It seemed that the people of the Qin Empire were actually a group of foodies, conferring the thing they ate and drank as the national flower. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but ask with a smile, Xiao Yin, the empire conferred the Yinhua as the family symbol. Is it because the Yinhua is very delicious? Qin Yin's beautiful eyes widened, and she smiled helplessly. It's not what you think. The reason why the Yinhua is the family emblem is because it can be eaten, and it can also be used as medicine to save people. The other reason is that the Yinhua never wilts, and it can even bloom in the cold winter. Therefore, the Qin family has made the Yinhua the family symbol, symbolizing the Qin family's tenacity and unyielding character. We are the rulers of the empire, so we must be able to bear everything and take the welfare of the people as our own responsibility. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu hurriedly cupped her fists and said, "Sorry, my words were a bit profane." "Don't be so nervous." Qin Yin smiled. "We are friends, so of course I won't blame you. Besides, it was just a normal conversation, there was no profane." "Thank you very much, Xiao Yin." Unknowingly, Lin Muyu once again had a good impression of Qin Yin. If being approachable was her greatest strength, then her words just now had already displayed her wisdom. Every word was sonorous and unquestionable, defending the ruling power of the Qin family. As they were eating, there was suddenly a faint noise coming from afar. Qin Yin frowned and asked, "What's wrong?" A royal guard cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, it's coming from the Qingyin Palace. It seems like someone is causing trouble there." Qin Yin was stunned. How is that possible? The Qingyin Palace is where Imperial Father reviews memorials. Who dares to cause trouble there? As she said this, Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu understood and stood up. "Prepare the horse immediately." "Your Highness, shall we go and take a look now?" Qin Yin nodded. She was the only heir of the family and naturally cared about everything in the Qingyin Palace. After all, the Qingyin Palace was the core of the imperial capital and also the center of the empire. Nothing could go wrong here. Facing the cold wind, Qin Yin wore a deep blue princess cloak, Lin Muyu wore a snow-white holy temple robe, and Tang Xiaoxi wore a red cloak. The three of them mounted their horses and rode away. Behind them, the dragon guards of the 18 royal guards quickly mounted their horses and led around 300 royal guards. The guards of the Phoenix Perching Palace were indeed very strong. Outside the Qingyin Palace, a large group of people gathered. There were around 100 royal guards and a large group of Divine Might Battalion soldiers in armor. There were more than 1,000 of them. "What's the matter?" Qin Yin quickly approached. A palace servant immediately shouted, "Her Highness Yin has arrived." Everyone became solemn and the disputes seemed to have died down. Qin Yin parted the crowd and walked over. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi stood to the side and discovered that a fight had already broken out. Many people were injured and there were bloodstains on the ground. Impressively, it was a fight between the Divine Might Battalion and the Royal Guards. In the center of the crowd, a royal guard carrying a long sword had his arms stained with blood. He was around 50 years old and was already quite old. His face was ashen and his long sword had been broken in two. He turned around and respectfully bowed to Qin Yin. "Your Highness, Qin Yin raised her eyebrows. "Lord Rong Hanyuan, what is going on here?" Lin Muyu's gaze fell on Rong Hanyuan and discovered that he was wearing the insignia of a chiliarch. It was obvious that he was a high-ranking officer in the royal guards. His rank was even higher than Chu Huaying's. Tang Xiaoxi whispered, Lord Rong Hanyuan is Brother Qin Lei's right-hand man. He is known as the second most powerful person in the royal guards. Is that so?" Lin Muyu nodded. Rong Hanyuan panted heavily and looked at Qin Yin. "Your Highness, I have been wrongly accused. I hope that your Highness can help me." "How are you being wrongly accused?" Before Qin Yin could say anything, a voice suddenly rang out. The voice was extremely penetrating, and it seemed to have a force field within it, causing the people around to be unable to speak or move. This voice was very familiar, and Lin Muyu's gaze followed the direction of the voice. To her surprise, she saw an old man in a black cloak, Zheng Yifan. "So it's a deity overlord." Qin Yin smiled. "How could a deity overlord be so free to bring the Divine Might Battalion into Zetian Palace without notifying me?" Zheng Yifan's expression was stern. "For the sake of the country, we must not bother with trifles. These are the words that the late emperor left for me. I will naturally abide by the late emperor's edict and will not rest until he is dead." As he spoke, Zheng Yifan waved his hand and took out a scroll. "The chiliarch of the royal guards, Rong Hanyuan, is a second-class noble. However, he has amassed thousands of hectares of fertile land in the west of Lanyan City. According to the empire's military law, a general under a chiliarch cannot amass more than 10 hectares of land. Rong Hanyuan has amassed so much fertile land, which is a violation of the military law. He has exceeded the limit by 100 times and should be beheaded. Rong Hanyuan's face was ashen as he hurriedly said, "These fields were bought by the veterans of the royal guards. We have decided to retire from the army and return to the fields. However, they are all recorded under my name. Your Highness, please investigate this. The evidence is conclusive and you still want to deny it." Xing Yifan roared angrily. His voice carried a powerful impact. In the next moment, his body flashed like a phantom and appeared in front of Rong Hanyuan. He raised his left hand and dashed forward. Kacha! Poor Rong Hanyuan's head flew through the air with burning blood. It was firmly held in Xing Yifan's hand. "I will release 3 chapters tonight at dawn and another one at noon. Don't say I didn't explode," he. Chapter 132. You. Seeing Rong Hanyuan's body fall to the ground, Qin Yin's beautiful face twisted in anger. She pointed at Xing Yifan and said, "You dare to kill someone in front of me? Xing Yifan, how dare you?" Xing Yifan handed Rong Hanyuan's head to a 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion. He cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, please forgive this old official for his disrespect. Rong Hanyuan is a vermin in the army and must be killed immediately. This old official will personally apologize to His Majesty." Whoosh whoosh, Lin Muyu was furious. Her battle chi turned into flames and surrounded her fists. The burning prairie sword on her back also trembled slightly because of its master's anger. It seemed as if it would be unsheathed at any time and kill the enemy. However, Lin Muyu couldn't do anything in the end. He didn't even have a 10% chance of winning against a sanctuary like Xing Yifan. If he really did make a move, he might even implicate Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. After thinking about it, he had no other choice but to regret. He hated himself for not being able to break through Xing Yifan's domain suppression. Otherwise, if he made a move, Rong Hanyuan wouldn't have been beheaded. This meritorious old general of the Imperial Guards was the senior of him, Qin Yan, Chu Huayin, and the others. He shouldn't have died like this. At this moment, the sound of hooves could be heard from afar. Qin Lei led a large group of Imperial Guards and rushed over. When he saw Rong Hanyuan's headless corpse, his face instantly paled. He lifted his thunder split blade and dismounted from his horse. His entire body was enshrouded in battle chi and the god-binding chains surrounded his thunder split blade. He roared, "Who was it? Which bastard killed Rong Hanyuan?" "Little Prince, it was this old official." Divine Marquis Xing Yifan still had a respectful look on his face as he said, "Rong Hanyuan privately hoarded thousands of hectares of fertile land. He knowingly broke the law and even tried to resist when this old official tried to arrest him. Therefore, this old official killed him on the spot." Qin Yan had an enraged look as the thunder split saber flickered with lightning sparks. He nearly crushed his steel teeth from clenching them as he roared furiously, "Old dog Zheng, you're going too far. Today I, Qin Lei, will not rest until you're dead." "Young Prince!" Zhen Yifan let out a shout, and immediately, the domain energy of the sanctuary expanded once again, suppressing everyone present. Qin Lei was the first to bear the brunt of it. It was as if all the power in his body had been imprisoned, and an invisible net of energy bound his body. However, Qin Lei still desperately raised his battle energy, to the point where his veins were bulging and streams of blood seeped out of his skin. The other focal point of the domain was naturally Lin Muyu. He didn't make a sound, but when he saw fresh blood seeping out from the corner of Qin Lei's mouth, an indescribable rage immediately surged into his heart. The dou qi in his body circulated crazily, rapidly increasing. In the next moment, the dou qi in his body violently transformed into the 7 luminaries' profound energy, and one after another, the celestial devil constellations appeared around his body. "Break!" Lin Muyu let out a shout, and immediately, the power of the four luminaries demon and god Weep transformed into a strong wind that surged in all directions, forcibly dispersing the domain pressure that Zhen Yifan had condensed. It seemed that Jin Yifan had also missed this point. He originally thought that the strongest impact would come from Qin Lei, but he didn't expect that Lin Muyu would actually be able to break his domain with an unknown source of power. Zhen Yifan's body trembled, and he swayed slightly. The blood in his body was in turmoil, and he felt rather uncomfortable. He frowned, and thought to himself, where did this brat get such an evil power from? Once Qin Lei left the domain, he raised his long blade and rushed out. He leaped into the air, and suddenly slashed his blade down in front of Zhen Yifan. His martial soul surged and exploded, turning everything around him into dust. It was the swift and fierce strike of the lightning split blade technique. 4-directional wild blade. Father! Among the Divine Might Battalion's crowd, Zhen Fang raised his sword and rushed over. His battle energy was enshrouded in the long sword, and he hastily blocked Qin Lei's attack, protecting Zhen Yifan as he retreated. However, who knew that the remaining force of Qin Lei's blade was far more than that? The blade suddenly rose from the soil, and he shouted, "Lightning split light slash." Clang. Zhen Fang was unable to block it. Although he and Qin Lei had the cultivation of the first level of the Heaven Realm, the disparity between the strength of their martial souls and martial skills was too great. He flew out along with his sword, and landed heavily on the snowy ground. Qin Lei. Zhen Yifan's voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. He stood majestically in the midst of the mess, and his face was ashen as he said, "I will clarify the whole story with His Majesty regarding Rong Hanyuan's matter. Don't be so overbearing here." Qin Lei gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. His face was pale, and fresh blood continuously flowed down the lightning split blade. After all, there was a huge gap of 3 realms between them. No matter how hard he tried, he would never be Zhen Yifan's opponent. Lin Muyu slowly walked forward, and reached out her hand to hold Qin Lei's shoulder. She said, "A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Big brother Qin Lei, just let it go." Qin Lei slowly lowered his head. The blood and tears in his eyes mixed together, and his shoulders trembled slightly. At this moment, he was almost swallowed up by unwillingness and anger. Zhen Yifan had killed Rong Hanyuan in front of a group of imperial guards. This was a huge humiliation. Rong Hanyuan had followed Qin Lei for many years, and he had done his duty diligently. However, he ended up like this in the end. Qin Lei could not absolve himself from the blame. Qin Lei's arm, which was holding onto the blade, was trembling slightly. His eyes were bloodshot, and he said in a low voice, "If I don't kill Zhen Yifan, I, Qin Lei, swear that I am not a man in this life." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "All right, I understand." Zhen Yifan snorted coldly. He helped Zhen Fang up, and led a group of Divine Might Battalion soldiers away ostentatiously. Qin Lei gritted his teeth, and picked up Rong Hanyuan's head from the ground. His face was pale, and he said, "Use a needle and thread to sew General Song's head and body together. Bury him with the ceremony of a deputy general." Chu Huaying received Rong Hanyuan's head. His brows were tightly knitted, and he allowed the fresh blood to dye his wrist guard and battle robe red. He turned around and left. Qin Lei seemed to have aged a lot. He looked at Lin Muyu and said, You're back?" Lin Muyu didn't know what to say to comfort Qin Lei. She didn't know how deep the friendship between Qin Lei and Rong Hanyuan was, so anything she said would seem to be inappropriate. Qin Lei held his shoulder and said, "This time, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, the consequences would be unthinkable. Zhen Yifan is a dog with wild ambitions. If we let him continue to be so rampant, I'm afraid that our Qin family's empire will be in danger." As he spoke, Qin Lei looked at Qin Yin and said, "Your Highness, shall we go and have an audience with His Majesty? He dared to openly enter Zetian Palace Hall today to kill my general. Perhaps he will directly kill his way into Zetian Palace Hall tomorrow to make things difficult for His Majesty." Qin Yin nodded. "Yes, let's go and see Royal Father now." At this moment, Lin Muyu's body slightly trembled, and the 7 luminaries' profound energy in his body started to backfire. After all, the strength of his soul wasn't enough to control the 4th luminaries. This time, he forcefully used the fourth luminaries to break Xing Yifun's domain. Xing Yifun was fine, but he himself was already injured. Tang Xiaoxi was attentive, and she hurriedly supported him and asked, "Mu, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Lin Muyu waved his hand and forcefully raised his battle chi to resist the seven luminaries' profound energies backfire. However, it was as if the inside of his body was overturned, and he couldn't recover in a short period of time. Half of the power in his body seemed to have been sucked away by the seven luminaries' profound energy. It seemed that although the seven luminaries could allow him to challenge enemies of a higher level, there was a price to pay. Big Brother Qin Lei, Her Highness, Shao Shi. He looked at the crowd and said, "When I was fighting with Xing Yifun just now, I suffered some internal injuries. I'm afraid that my current strength isn't enough to protect all of you. Lin Muyu requests to leave first." Qin Yin looked at him worriedly. Do you want me to get the imperial physician to diagnose my internal injuries?" "No need, thank you, Xiao Yin." Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said, "Then Big Brother Qin Lei and Xiao Yin will go see His Majesty, and I'll accompany you back. Be careful." After leaving the Zetian Palace, Lin Muyu slowly rode on his warhorse. His face was slightly pale, but after silently circulating the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll for a few days, the backfire of the seven luminaries' profound energy in his body was forcefully suppressed, and he had also recovered quite a bit of strength. When he arrived at Tongtian Street, he suddenly turned his horse around and went right. "Mu, aren't you going back to the Eagle Nest camp?" Tang Xiaoxi asked in surprise. "No, I'm going to the Divine Palace first." "All right." Tang Xiaoxi didn't ask for the reason, because she knew that Lin Muyu definitely had his reasons for doing so. When they arrived at the Divine Palace, a few Divine Palace guards respectfully said, "Madam Lin Muyu, you're back?" Lin Muyu nodded, and his complexion didn't look too good, so the guards didn't say much, and bowed to Tang Xiaoxi, who was behind him. Tang Xiaoxi waved her hand, indicating that they didn't need to stand on ceremony. The Divine Palace was silent. Not far away, sounds of fighting could be heard from the training hall. From afar, Qin Yan's entire body was covered with the defensive spirit power of the dragon-scale armor martial spirit, and he was defending against the sword and blade attacks of a Silver Star sparring master. And no matter how the Silver Star sparring master attacked, he was unable to break through the defense of the dragon-scale armor martial spirit. The world's #1 defensive martial spirit deserved its reputation. Lin Muyu didn't disturb Qin Yan's cultivation and stepped into the inner hall step by step. In the long corridor, Gu Yang was holding a scroll and studying it, and when he raised his head, he saw Lin Muyu and smiled. You finally returned from your cultivation outside? Did everything go smoothly?" Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Everything went smoothly. I've already completed the mission." "Grandpa Gu Yang, I want to look for Grandpa Lei Hong. Is he still in the Divine Palace?" "Yes, he's here. I'll bring you there now." "All right." Inside the main hall, Lei Hong sat cross-legged, battle chi lingering around his body, and he was cultivating. After Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Gu Yang entered, they didn't disturb him and just sat quietly at the side and waited. Not long after, Lei Hong opened his eyes after one circulation and said with a smile, "You, Princess Shi, you're here?" "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Lei Hong said, "Since you're here, there must be something, right?" Lin Muyu asked, "Grandpa Lei Hong, I have something to ask you, and I hope you can answer me truthfully." "Can ask you." "Grandpa Lei Hong and Xing Yifun, who's stronger?" Lin Muyu asked directly. Lei Hong was stunned, stroked his white beard, and said with a smile, "Xing Yifun is stronger." "Then, between Grandpa Chu Chu and Xing Yifun, who's stronger?" Lin Muyu continued to ask. Lei Hong smiled slightly. "Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, his attainments in the law of fire is supreme in the world, and his fire palms are rarely matched, but Xing Yifun has hidden his strength, so, in my opinion, Chu Chu and Xing Yifun's strength are on par." "I understand." Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said, "Grandpa Lei Hong, write a letter and send it to Grandpa Chu Chu, tell him to return to Lanyan City." Lei Hong was stunned. Chapter 133. Not long ago, Zheng Yifan brought 1,000 soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion into Zetian Palace and killed the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards, Rong Hanyuan, with a fabricated crime. He killed Rong Hanyuan in front of me, Her Highness Yin and Princess Shi. Lin Muyu didn't answer the question. What? Lei Hong frowned. Zheng Yifan dared to be so insolent? Lin Muyu said, Zheng Yifan's actions are nothing more than a warning to the Imperial Guards to not be enemies with the Divine Marquis Mansion. He's already so arrogant, I'm worried that he might harm Her Highness Yin and His Majesty at any time. So I hope that Grandpa Lei Hong can find Grandpa Chu Chu as soon as possible and let him stay at Zetian Palace. The Emperor and Princess need him now. I understand. Lei Hong took a deep breath. Chu Chu will definitely return to Lanyan City within 5 days, but you're now a thorn in the Divine Marquis Mansion's flesh. You're also stationed at the Eagle Nest Mountain outside the city. You must be careful. I'm not worried that Zheng Yifan will harm His Majesty, but I'm worried that he will harm you. Lin Muyu said leisurely, I'm fine. It won't be that easy for Zheng Yifan to kill me. Plus, there are dozens of Eagle Guards and hundreds of Imperial Guards in the Eagle Nest camp. He won't be able to do it easily. Lei Hong said, hurry back to the camp before the sun sets. Be careful once you leave the city. Lei Hong stood up and said, Deacon Guyang, prepare a horse for me. Great Deacon, where are you going? Guyang asked in surprise. Lei Hong smiled, before Chu Chu returns to Lanyan City, I'll protect His Majesty and Her Highness Yin in Zetian Palace. Although I'm no match for Zheng Yifan, if he wants to kill me, he'll have to pay the price in blood. Yes, Great Deacon. Lin Muyu also smiled faintly and left the sacred hall with Tang Xiaoxi. It was close to dusk, and the streets were filled with pedestrians. From afar, the spiritual medicine department opposite the Holy Temple looked like two giants standing majestically among the buildings of the imperial capital, facing the Holy Temple from afar, like two giant gods guarding the imperial capital. Xiaoxi, I think? Lin Muyu suddenly stopped her horse. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, her eyes sparkling with cunning. Do you want to see Sister Chu Yao? Yeah, Lin Muyu also knew that Tang Xiaoxi was interested in her, so she asked, you won't be jealous or angry, right? Tang Xiaoxi shook her head and smiled. Mu, you and Sister Chu Yao risked your life to come all the way from Kathaya City to Wild Orchid City. If you ignore her, I'll really question your character. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. What's wrong with my character? It's pretty good. Tang Xiaoxi flipped off her horse and said, then I won't accompany you in. Come out quickly and send me back to the Duke's mansion on the way. Okay. After leaving her horse outside, Lin Muyu quickly stepped into the spiritual medicine department. No one stopped her along the way, and she went straight to the courtyard where Chu Yao lived. Just as she pushed open the courtyard door, she heard a sharp whistling sound. The pear blossom sword was shot through the air into a tree trunk in the courtyard. Chu Yao stood a few meters away with 2 fingers pressed together, and true energy enshrouded her fingers. Not bad. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu Yao was stunned, and then her eyes immediately turned red. She opened her arms and threw herself into Lin Muyu's embrace, her shoulders trembling. I heard a lot of bad rumors. I thought that something bad had happened to you in the dragon-seeking forest. I have nightmares every night. It's great that you came back alive. Lin Muyu hugged her senior sister's slender waist helplessly and smiled. Didn't I come back alive? Sister Chu Yao, time is precious. I still have to return to the Eagle Nest camp to submit my orders. Come, let me teach you a few advanced techniques of sword kinesis. And alright. Chu Yao was happy. Thus, within 20 minutes, Lin Muyu taught her all the secrets and tricks of the 4-element sword kinesis. He did not know how much Chu Yao could learn, but with her talent in comprehending the sword heart so quickly, she would definitely succeed. Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique extended out, and he could see through the flow of the innate qi in Chu Yao's body. He could already tell that Chu Yao's cultivation had advanced to the level of War Elder and stepped into the 2nd level of the Earth realm. With her advancement speed, She should be able to step into the third level of the Earth realm in half a year. Looking at Chu Yao's appearance, she still had short hair, but she was wearing exquisite soft armor. She was wearing the Spirit Medicine Department's white robes. She looked very spirited and valiant. Lin Muyu couldn't help feeling a bit comforted. He knew he couldn't protect Chu Yao for the rest of his life. Making her stronger was the best way to protect her. After teaching the four-element sword kinesis, he left in a hurry. Night fell. Outside the Spirit Medicine Department, Tang Xiaoxi had been waiting impatiently for a long time. However, when she saw Lin Muyu walk out of the Spirit Medicine Department with a tired face, she couldn't bear to blame him. She just asked, "How is Sister Chu Yao recently?" "Pretty good." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "I taught her the sword kinesis. Sister Chu Yao's advancement speed is quite fast. By the way, Xiaoxi, how is your cultivation progress recently?" Tang Xiaoxi raised her beautiful eyes, puffed out her full chest, and said, "I stepped into the third level of the Earth realm half a month ago. I should be close to the level 57 Battle Saint. If there are no accidents, I should be able to step into the Heaven realm in about half a month." "How is it, Mu? I'm about to catch up to you." Lin Muyu snickered. "Heh, even if you step into the Heaven realm, I'm afraid you're still no match for me." Tang Xiaoxi pouted. Mu is a baddie, don't provoke me." "Alright, go back early." After sending Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion, Lin Muyu immediately spurred her horse towards Eagle's Nest Mountain. In less than half an hour, she had already ascended the mountain. In the darkness of the night, there was an endless stream of royal guards ascending the mountain. On the backs of their horses, there were fire foxes, swift wolves, cloud deer, and other prey. These were all for the enjoyment of Zetian Palace. It was a stark contrast to the lives of the poor commoners outside the city. However, when she thought about it, there were actually only two masters in Zetian Palace, Qin Jin and Qin Yin, and there were not many palace maids and attendants in Zetian Palace. If it was an ancient emperor of China, with 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, and tens of thousands of palace attendants, it would not be as simple as just asking for 20 cloud deer, it would be at least 2,000. In comparison, Zetian Palace was really simple. Qin Jin and Qin Yin's life could not even be considered luxurious. When they stepped into the camp, they saw a large group of people gathered in the distance. From afar, they could hear a wild and arrogant voice. "You bunch of trash, and you're still talking about obtaining the spirit stones of a 6,000-year-old golden-scaled beast? What do you think? You can't produce the spirit stones, yet you still want to make a false accusation. Men, arrest all of them and bring them to the Lord Commander." This voice belonged to Gong Sun, and it was too unique. It was so shrill that it sounded like the eunuch attendants in the palace. Not good, Lin Muyu's heart sank. He immediately spurred his horse forward and shouted, "Get out of the way!" His martial spirit had already entered his body, and it protected him and his warhorse as he charged forward. Parting the crowd, he saw Wei Chou and a group of subordinates surrounded in the middle of the crowd. Wei Chou's chest was even covered in blood, as if he had been stabbed by a sword. Gong Sun and another Heavenly State Imperial Guard were laughing at the side. The other Heavenly State Imperial Guard Lin Muyu recognized him. His name was Su Gung, and he was a centurion of the Eagle Guards. He was also from the Divine Marquis residence, and he was very strong. It was probably because of these 2 Heavenly State experts that Wei Chou and the others were no match for them. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu flipped off his horse, and the burning prairie sword was pulled out of its sheath by the power of lightning. He held it firmly in his hand, and his expression was not very good. He said lightly, "Wei Chou, what's wrong?" Wei Chou's face was still stained with blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "My lord, Gong Sun and Su Gung insisted that we did not complete the mission. Gong Sun even said that I should fulfill the promise and kneel to him. If I did not comply, they would lead the others to injure us." Gong Sun probably took advantage of the fact that Su Gung was also here. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Lin Muyu, you said that previously, you should have nothing to say now, right? Your subordinate's mouth is not clean, so I will help you teach him a lesson. This is the rule of the Eagle Nest Camp. The rule of the Eagle Nest Camp? Lin Muyu was infuriated. Who gave the people of the Divine Marquis residence such a great advantage? As he spoke, Lin Muyu reached into his pocket and took out the spirit stone of the golden-scaled beast. With a burst of fighting energy, the spirit stone shone brightly. This was obviously a spirit stone that was at least 6,000 years old. How is it? Lin Muyu said lightly, "Can we hand over the order now?" It really is a 6,000 years old golden-scaled beast spirit stone. Su Gong was slightly shocked. Gong Sun sneered, "Who knows if the spirit stone of the golden-scaled beast was bought from the Imperial Chamber of Commerce? I heard that the relationship between Lin Muyu and Jin Xiaotang is very good. Maybe it was bought. Even if it was bought, I have completed the mission." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth rose. "But the two of you bullied my people. Shouldn't you repay something now?" "Repay what?" Gong Sun sneered. "Do you think you can fight 1 against 2? Why can't I?" Before he finished speaking, Lin Muyu had already moved. Demonic power quickly gathered on his left fist. With a roar, he punched towards Su Gong's abdomen. Su Gong didn't expect this kid to suddenly sneak attack. He hurriedly condensed chi armor to protect himself. But it was too late. He only gathered less than 30% of his strength and was hit by the 50% power of the second glory. The dignified Heavenly Realm Imperial Guard was directly blown away and fell into a pile of broken bricks. There was no more movement. Gong Sun was stunned. He hurriedly gathered his fighting energy into his long sword and attacked. Lin Muyu laughed wildly. She opened her left hand and the dragon scale wall appeared between her 5 fingers. It invisibly increased her defense. She forcibly grabbed the opponent's blade with one hand. She opened her right hand and used lightning to control the sword. The prairie fire sword stabbed toward Gong Sun's chest. The sword surged. It didn't break through Gong Sun's chi armor, but it had completely shattered his defensive aura. Her right hand condensed into a palm blade. She increased her fighting energy. The 30% power of the first glory went straight for Gong Sun's neck. The palm strike made Gong Sun lie on the ground. Both his palms fell to the ground, and he also abandoned his sword. Lin Muyu raised her leg and kicked the back of his knee. She raised her palm and wrapped her flame fighting energy. She grabbed the cloak on his back and kicked in the direction of Wei Chou. She shouted, "Kneel." Just like that, Gong Sun knelt in front of Wei Chou with a humiliated expression. Chapter 134. Gong Sun knelt on the ground, his mind completely blank. Even though the first star of the 7 luminaries' profound energy was only struck out with 30% of his strength, it was still unbearable for him. He shook his head with all his might, and only regained his senses after at least 10 seconds. When he raised his head to take a look, he realized that he was kneeling in front of Wei Chou and the other Imperial Guards, and there was a foot on his back, making him unable to move. "Apologize." Lin Muyu's voice was very cold, and she seemed to be suppressing her anger. Gong Sun clenched his teeth and struggled to stand up as he bellowed, "You want this daddy to apologize to Ingji's son? Only if I, Gong Sun, am dead. Stop dreaming. Kill me if you have the guts." Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She raised her hand and pulled out the prairie fire sword. She spat out her battle aura, and the blade was surrounded by raging flames. Just like that, she placed it on Gong Sun's neck. It was boiling hot, and in the blink of an eye, the skin on his neck was charred black. That kind of pain was naturally unbearable for an ordinary person. Even though Gong Sun was arrogant, he only had arrogance and no pride. He couldn't endure pain, and he bellowed like a pig being slaughtered, "Lin Muyu, you bastard! What exactly do you want?" "Apologize to Wei Chou." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "Tell him that you are wrong." "Milord," Wei Chou looked at Gong Sun who was kneeling in front of him, but he was still a little fearful. After all, Gong Sun's strength and bloodline were much higher than his. Furthermore, Gong Sun was the squad leader of the Imperial Guards, and his military rank was much higher than his. "Apologize." Lin Muyu continued to bellow, and the battle aura in her hand increased by 10%. Instantly, the flames on the prairie fire sword became even more intense. If this continued, Gong Sun wouldn't be able to last more than a minute. Enduring the intense pain, Gong Sun laid on the ground with both hands on the ground, and said word by word with a trembling voice, "Wei Chou. I am sorry. Gong Sun is wrong. I have let you down. I apologize to you right here." What? The flames on the burning prairie sword were extinguished. Lin Muyu raised her hand and sheathed the longsword. She removed the combat boots that were on Gong Sun's back and said coldly, "I hope you won't do it again in the future. Wei Chou is my, Lin Muyu's, subordinate. It's not your turn to discipline him, Gong Sun." Yes. Gong Sun was no longer as arrogant as before. He continued to kneel there and violently coughed a few times. Drops of blood splattered on the ground. In the corner, Su Geng, who was in the ruins, coughed as well. He stumbled and crawled as he stood up. His face was covered in blood. He was caught off guard and took the second element with 50% of its power. It was already considered pretty good that he didn't die. At this moment, the surrounding royal guards had fear written all over their faces. No one expected Lin Muyu to be so strong. He, Gong Sun, and Su Geng were also in the first heaven of the heaven realm, but he was able to subdue Gong Sun and Su Geng in 2 moves. No one knew how strong this kid was. In fact, the reason for such an outcome was very simple. The first reason was that Lin Muyu launched a surprise attack and caught the opponent off guard. The second reason was that the 7 luminaries' mystic energy was too vigorous and overbearing. Gong Sun and Su Geng's battle chi might not be inferior to Lin Muyu's, but in terms of martial arts, they were much, much faster. Gong Sun and Su Geng's martial arts moves were at most a spirit-grade martial art, but Lin Muyu's 7 luminaries' mystic energy was rare in the world. Not to mention a profound grade or saint-grade martial art, even if the 7 luminaries' mystic energy was listed as a divine-grade martial art, it would still be a grievance. After all, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor relied on the 7 luminaries to kill hundreds of God realm and holy domain experts. This was something that Lin Muyu had witnessed with her own eyes. The tyrannical nature of the 7 luminaries' mystic energy was something that no one in the world could understand. "Wei Chou, let's go hand in the order?" Lin Muyu said with a slight smile. Wei Chou also revealed a smile, wiped the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth, and said, "Yes, my lady." And so, Lin Muyu led the 10 royal guards to the central camp of the Eagle Nest camp. Actually, the battle outside was not more than 100 meters away from the central camp, but Meng Fong, as the commander, turned a blind eye to it. Lin Muyu was already used to it. In this world, the strong were revered. Meng Fong probably just wanted his subordinates to decide the winner and loser themselves. Even if someone was killed, he could just stand aside and not take any responsibility. Swoosh! She opened the curtain of the central camp. Inside, Commander Meng Fong was holding a wine jar and drinking. There were also 2 other royal guards of the same rank as Lin Muyu. "Are you done teaching him a lesson?" Meng Fong smiled slightly. It seems that Gong Sun is not Lady Lin Muyu's match after all. Those who can escape from the Tower of Babel unscathed are not ordinary people after all. Lin Muyu walked forward expressionlessly, took out her bag of spirit stones, shook it, and took out all the spirit stones, saying, "Commander, these are our gains from this trip. A 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger fire spirit stone, a 4,200-year-old flaming ironback bear spirit stone, a 5,200-year-old stone spot wolf spirit stone, a 6,200-year-old golden scale beast light spirit stone, and a 4,800-year-old golden scale beast spirit stone. Please store them all in the warehouse." Meng Fong looked at the glowing spirit stones on the table, and his eyes couldn't help but brighten. He laughed heartily, saying, "General Lin, I really want to ask, how did you get so many spirit stones that are more than 5,000 years old? Logically speaking, even if you are an expert at the first level of the heavenly realm, but killing a 6,200-year-old golden scale beast shouldn't be that easy, right?" Lin Muyu pointed at his arm, saying, "In order to kill this golden scale beast, my arm was broken, and Wei Chou and the others were also injured. The obtaining of these spirit stones isn't as easy as Commander thinks. So that's how it is? Meng Fong looked at him approvingly, saying, "The Eagle Nest Camp has such a strong general like Lady Lin Muyu. It is our Eagle Nest Camp's blessing. I will say something from the bottom of my heart. If you hadn't come, we definitely wouldn't have been able to complete the mission before the winter sacrifice ceremony. Even if we sent out all the Eagle Guards, it wouldn't have been of any use." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and cupped his hands, saying, "Since I joined the Eagle Nest Camp, then I am a member of the Eagle Nest Camp. The Eagle Nest Camp's honor and disgrace are already one with me, so I naturally won't neglect you." Meng Fong nodded with a smile. "You've worked hard. Please sit and have a cup of warm wine." "Thank you." Lin Muyu brushed his battle robe and sat down at a table at the side. An Imperial Guard immediately poured wine for him, while Wei Chou and a few other Imperial Guards stood behind him. In the distance, a 10-man squad leader of the Imperial Guards, who was sitting opposite, pulled out a leg of a roasted rabbit in a copper cauldron and chewed it without restraint, letting the oil and water drip onto his beard. As he chewed on the rabbit meat, he said with a smile, "I heard that Lady Lin Muyu and the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, and the commander of the Imperial Guards, Lord Qin Lei, are very close and even more favored by Her Highness Yin and Princess Shi. It is said that after you were exiled to the Tower of Babel, Her Highness Yin and Princess Shi pleaded for you in every possible way. With such an identity and status, why did Lady Lin Muyu take the initiative to apply to the Eagle Nest Camp?" He wiped his oily mouth and said with a smile, "If you applied to become a dragon guard, it wouldn't be too much of a problem. Could it be that serving Her Highness Lin Muyu, the #1 beauty of the imperial capital, and the heir of the family, Her Highness Qin Yin, is not as good as staying with us uncouth Eagle Guards?" Lin Muyu frowned and did not know how to answer. After thinking for a long time, she said, "Perhaps it is because I feel that my days in the Eagle Nest Camp will be more relaxing?" Meng Fong laughed. "Lady Lin Muyu is right. Our Eagle Nest Camp is the army that is the furthest away from Zetian Palace among the Imperial Guards. As the saying goes, the sky is high, and the Emperor is far away, so there is no need for us to live in fear every day. Although patrolling and gathering information are quite dangerous, it is definitely Xiaoyao's freedom." Lin Muyu nodded. "Commander is right." Just as the bearded general was about to continue speaking, Meng Fong interrupted him, saying, "Lord Xiahou, Lin Muyu has just returned from patrolling, and she is already injured. Don't ask those nonsensical questions. If you really want to ask, you can ask them later." Xiahou was startled, and then cupped his fists, saying, "Yes, Commander." Not long after, following Meng Fong's orders, Gong Sun and Su Gong also entered the tent. Gong Sun's neck was wrapped in thick bandages, and one of Su Gong's arms was drooping. It seemed that the violent impact had injured his arm. When he saw Gong Sun and Su Gong's appearance, Xiahou laughed loudly and said mockingly, "Oh, how did the two generals of the Divine Marquis residence end up in such a sorry state? Could it be that they met a divine domain expert like the Fire Cauldron Chu? Otherwise, who would be able to beat Lord Gong Sun of the Eagle Nest Camp to such a state?" Gong Sun's face flushed red, saying, "Xiahou, drink your wine, don't talk nonsense." Xiahou laughed loudly. Lin Muyu glanced at him and thought that this Xiahou mouth was indeed too wicked. However, when she heard him ridicule Gong Sun and Su Gong, she actually felt a faint sense of satisfaction in her heart. This was the outcome of a vile person. After eating and drinking and filling their stomachs, they left the tent with Wei Chou and the others. "My lord, our camp is to the south of the Eagle Nest Camp." Wei Chou said respectfully. It's just a tent that was just set up today." Wei Chou added cautiously, afraid that Lin Muyu would be unhappy. After all, Lin Muyu was now the #1 hero of the Eagle Nest Camp. If he complained that the tent was too simple and crude, it would not look good for everyone. Fortunately, Lin Muyu did not care about this, and said with a smile, "It's okay, it's fine as long as it can block the wind and rain." When they arrived at the camp, it was indeed very simple. The tent that Lin Muyu, the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards, was just a simple white tent. Although it could block the rain, it might not be able to block the wind. There was a simple bed inside, but it was actually just some hay padded on top. After entering the tent, Lin Muyu was speechless. Mother Ker, the eagle nest camp was really too poor, so poor that it was a little exaggerated. My lord, are you satisfied? Wei Chou also could not stand it anymore. Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the outside. The tent of Wei Chou and the others was even more simple. It was just a straw hut leaning against a large tree at the peak of the mountain. The cold wind was blowing all around, and they would have an even more difficult night. Frowning, Lin Muyu said, "Everyone will make do for the night. Tomorrow, come with me to the capital to purchase materials. We will build our own camp." "Yes, my lord." A trace of joy flashed across Wei Chou's face. Chapter 135. Lying on the soft bed, Lin Muyu saw a longhorn beetle gracefully crawling on the edge of her bed. She couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Eagle Nest Mountain's campsite was indeed natural. This place was too close to nature. Closing his eyes, he ignored the heavenly bowl and slowly activated the spirit meridian art. In this period of time, Lin Muyu had shifted the focus of her cultivation from the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to the spirit pulse technique. This was because the benefits of the spirit pulse technique were obvious. In the past, using the two luminaries' demonic dance once would drain her soul energy, but now, using the second luminaries 3 times consecutively would not be a problem. After all, the 7 luminaries' dark force was her strongest killer move, so the spirit pulse technique was the foundation. Moreover, the spirit meridian technique had even saved his life in Sky Split Tower. Lei Hong had said that the creator of the spirit meridian technique was a madman, but now it seemed that the creator of the spirit meridian technique was simply a peerless genius. He slowly spread out his spirit sense. Even though he had closed his eyes, everything around him seemed clearer than when he had his eyes open. The heavenly bowl was crawling along a grass branch, and above its head, a black spider was silently weaving a web. Winter had come too quickly this year, so much so that the animals were still too slow to go into hibernation. In fact, even after the snow on Eagle's Nest had melted, it was still green. Further away, a group of royal guards were drinking and chatting. Lin Muyu could easily recognize their voices. Among them were Gong Sun and Su Gung. Their tents were about 120 meters away from Lin Muyu, but the spirit pulse technique was able to hear their voices. It was amazing. "That little bastard, I must kill him." Gong Sun slammed his wine glass on the table. Su Gung said, "Lin Muyu's punch was too fast, and there was a demonic power in it. My battle aura protection was useless against it. I don't know what's going on." Gong Sun replied, "Only the heavens know where he learned this crooked method from. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been subdued so easily. If this matter were to spread to the Divine Marquis residence, I'm afraid that the Divine Marquis would be disappointed in us." Su Gung smiled. "The Marquis has eyes and ears all over Lanyan City. I'm sure he knows by now. However, Brother Gong Sun, you don't have to worry. Lin Muyu has ruined the plans of the Marquis and the little Marquis. The Marquis will definitely not let Lin Muyu off so easily. We just have to wait for the Marquis to send even stronger people to make things difficult for that brat." Gong Sun's rage hadn't dissipated as he said, "If it's possible, I want to personally chop off that little bastard's head." "As you wish." When Lin Muyu heard this, she frowned. She continued to extend her spiritual sense outwards, but she could no longer hear the voices of people. 120 meters seemed to be the limit. Any further and the voices would become intermittent and indistinct. She could not hear them at all. The spirit meridian art rippled outwards layer by layer, causing his mind to be clear and his thoughts to be unprecedentedly clear. He cultivated all the way until midnight. A wave of tiredness hit him, and he closed his eyes to sleep. The next morning, when he woke up, he saw the Spirit Fire Division of the Eagle Nest camp making breakfast in the distance. Wei Chou respectfully said outside the tent, "Sir, the Eagle Nest camp's rule is that there will be an hour of training in the morning before breakfast is served." He got up, brushed his teeth and washed his face. There was no toothpaste in this world yet, so he used something called tooth powder. It was said to be made from the powder of a plant, but the effect was not much different from toothpaste. However, washing his face was a problem because there were no men's skincare products like L'Oreal in the mainland. Fortunately, Lin Muyu did not mind. Her skin was naturally good, so she did not seem to need those things. Zhang Wei and Wei Chou, who were uncouth, did not even bother to use tooth powder. They were very bold and their breath was fresh. After rinsing his mouth, he suddenly felt a shock. There seemed to be people behind the tent. He immediately unsheathed the prairie fire sword with a clang and silently approached. With a sudden leap, he arrived at the back of the tent, only to see a few royal guards in white robes standing guard. Moreover, this group of people seemed to have been here for a long time. Many of their shoulder armors were covered in a layer of frost. Brother Chu Huayin? Lin Muyu was stunned. One of these people was Chu Huayin, and each of them wore a golden dragon head emblem on their chest. That was the symbol of the dragon guards. Chu Huayin was also stunned. He smiled and said, You found us? Lin Muyu was confused. Why are you here? When did you come? We came late last night. I didn't know. Lin Muyu secretly regretted it. She must have slept so soundly that she did not even notice the arrival of Chu Huayin and his group with the Spirit Meridian art. There were a total of 10 dragon guards, including Chu Huayin. Lin Muyu asked, Brother Chu Huayin, this is the Eagle Nest camp. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be protecting His Majesty and Her Highness Yin at Zetian Palace? Chu Huayin brushed off the frost on his shoulders and smiled. Yesterday, Zhen Yifan attacked the royal guards and killed the deputy commander Rong Hanyuan. This is the first time he has provoked the royal guards, and there will definitely be a second time. Commander Qin Lei thinks that Zhen Yifan's next target is likely to be you, so he asked me to lead the 9 dragon guards to secretly protect you. I didn't expect you to still find out. Lin Muyu was grateful and terrified at the same time. She said, But it's too hard for you to stay here. Brother Chu Huayin, bring everyone back to Zetian Palace. I'm very safe here. There are 70 eagle guards from the Eagle Nest camp and hundreds of royal guards. It won't be easy for Xing Yifan to touch me. You don't have to make things difficult for me. Chu Huayin smiled and said, You know Qin Lei's temper. Once he has set his mind on something, he will definitely do it to the end. He has sent us to protect you until the day of the winter sacrifice ceremony. There are still 3 days left. Don't make things difficult for me, just let us follow you. All right then. Lin Muyu had a helpless look on her face. She could only accept this favor. She participated in the morning training. The Eagle Nest camp's morning training was very simple. She practiced riding, swordsmanship, saber skills, and archery. After spending so many days in Lanyan City, although Lin Muyu's riding skills couldn't be said to be extraordinary, it was still considered first-rate. In terms of swordsmanship, her 4-elemental sword kinesis could be said to be the best, so she didn't need much training. Her saber skills were average, and as for archery, she still needed to learn it from Wei Chou. Tuk-tuk-tuk. The sound of horse hooves reverberated throughout the training grounds. Wei Chou was riding on a warhorse. He opened his palm and took out 3 arrows from his quiver. Pa pa pa. He shot 3 arrows consecutively, hitting 3 targets. This brat was not only good at fixed-point archery, but his mounted archery was also considered outstanding in the Eagle Nest camp. For a moment, the onlookers all cheered. Even Chu Huayin raised his sword and cheered loudly. When it was Lin Muyu's turn, she charged forward on her warhorse. At the same time, she raised her treasured carving bow and shot 1 arrow after another. You can't become fat in one bite. Buzz! She channeled her battle chi into the arrow, and in the next moment, the arrow left the bowstring. Whoosh! The arrow didn't hit the target. Everyone laughed, but in the next moment, the arrow hit a large tree that was about half a meter in diameter. Pang! The large tree fell, and everyone's whispers stopped. Although the accuracy wasn't high enough, the explosive power was top-notch. Commander Meng Fong had a look of helplessness on his face as he said, Lady Lin Muyu's archery skills, are really eye-opening. Lin Muyu lowered her head and didn't say anything. This kind of thing was really too embarrassing. After breakfast, it was time for the Eagle Nest Camp's daily training. After lunch, it was finally free time. Lin Muyu led Wei Chou and the other 10 royal guards and 30 royal guards down the mountain to purchase supplies. Chu Huayin and the other 10 dragon guards followed them from afar. The dragon guards had always been proud. They were a group of sacred existences that protected the emperor and the princess. But now, they were actually protecting an eagle guard. This kind of thing was really amazing. As he watched the group go down the mountain, Commander Meng Fong shook his head and sighed. What kind of world is this? I don't understand it anymore. On the way down the mountain, Lin Muyu looked through her bag of spirit stones. She realized that apart from the spirit stones she had handed over, there were still some spirit stones left. There were 2 4,000-year-old stone-type spirit stones, 1 5,000-year-old fire-type spirit stone, and a 5,100-year-old thorn demon poison-type spirit stone. These spirit stones seemed to be able to be used to forge decent weapons. She then looked through her bag of money and saw that there were only 2 diamond coins left. She was really poor. This amount of money was not enough to purchase enough military supplies for the 110 soldiers under her command. She had to make a trip to the imperial business firm. After entering the imperial capital, it was still bustling as usual along the way. When they arrived at the imperial business firm, only Wei Chou was brought in. The rest of the people stood guard outside. Lin Muyu was wearing the Holy Temple's battle robe, while Wei Chou was wearing the Royal Guard's armor. They were very eye-catching. Fortunately, the supervisor on duty recognized Lin Muyu. He immediately came forward and smiled. Sir Linji, you are finally here. Are you looking for Miss Xiaodang? Yes. Also, don't call me Lin Ji. Call me Lin Muyu. A few minutes later, Jean Xiaotang walked out of the inner hall with an excited expression. Seeing Lin Muyu was like seeing a business opportunity. She did not hide her excitement at all. She walked up and grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. She smiled and said, Sir Lin Ji, you haven't come for a long time. Do you know that Xiaotang has been anxiously waiting for you? No, I should call you Sir Lin Muyu now. The imperial business firm was indeed omnipotent. Nothing could be hidden from them. Jean Xiaotang must have seen through everything about him. Lin Muyu nodded with a smile. Aren't I here now? As he said this, he felt that something was wrong. He felt that this kind of conversation was a bit like the conversation between a prostitute and the madam of a brothel in ancient times. He looked down and saw the excitement on Jean Xiaotang's beautiful face. He immediately felt a sense of guilt. If Third Fatty Jean knew that he was thinking of his daughter like this, he would definitely fight with his life. Chapter 136. Madam Lin Muyu, what do you need this time? Jean Xiaotang asked with a smile as she brought Lin Muyu around the shop with her hands behind her back. She exuded the aura of a young girl. Perhaps many people thought that Jean Xiaotang was a young girl, but no one would doubt her intelligence and ability. It was precisely because of Lin Muyu's refining skills that Jean Xiaotang treated him with such importance and politeness. Otherwise, who do you think you are? Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, I'm afraid I'll have to put it on credit again this time because I only have 2,000 Jeanine dollars on me. Sure. Jean Xiaoting covered her mouth and laughed. You're a diamond card customer of our Imperial Merchant Guild, and you're so familiar with me. As long as you say the word, you can put as much as you want. All right, let's go. I want to buy some spirit stones and black iron. All right. Arriving at the spirit stone shop, Lin Muyu scanned the new spirit stones. There were only 3 that caught Lin Muyu's attention. One was an 8,700-year-old Thunder Attribute Spirit Stone, one was a 6,400-year-old Frost Attribute Spirit Stone, and the last was a 5,000-year-old Wind Attribute Spirit Stone. He pointed at these 3 and said, How much do these 3 spirit stones add up? Oh, Jean Xiaotang blinked her eyes and said, Thunder-type spirit stones are rare to begin with, so an 8,700-year-old one is even rarer. Therefore, this 8,700-year-old Thunder-type spirit stone is priced at 21,000 Jeanine coins, The 6,400-year-old ice-type spirit stone is priced at 7,000 Jin coins, and the 5,000-year-old wind-type spirit stone is priced at 3,000 Jin coins. That's a total of 31,000 Jin coins. Xiaotang will give you a 30% discount and round it up to 20,000 Jin coins. Alright, take it off and give it to me. I'll put it on credit. Alright. Wei Chou, who was standing at the side, was dumbstruck. Not to mention tens of thousands of Jin coins, he had never even seen thousands of Jin coins before. Furthermore, he would never come to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce to buy things in the past. Although there were many good things here, they were also expensive. After that, he went to look around the iron ore shop. A huge pile of shiny iron ore attracted Lin Muyu's attention. He extended his spiritual pulse technique and could clearly feel the rich dark force in the iron ore. He could not help but take a second look. Jean shouting covered her mouth and laughed. My lord, this is 10,000-year meteoric iron. It's an item that has been appraised by a professional. It contains an extremely rich amount of spiritual energy. Do you want it? I'll give you a discount, 50 Jin coins per caddy. Wow! Wei Chou was speechless. It's as expensive as gold, Jean shouting pouted. Of course. Weapons forged from 10,000-year dark iron are extremely tough, durable, and sharp. We spent a lot of effort to obtain this kind of 10,000-year dark iron. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. How much 10,000-year dark iron do you have here? 820 caddies. All right, I'll take it all. Ah? Really? Jean Xiaotang's mouth was wide open. She was overjoyed. Of course it's true. That's good. Jean shouting suddenly held onto Lin Muyu's hand and said coquettishly, Then my lord Lin Muyu, do you have to give more of the weapons you forged to the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce to auction? Yes, of course. Although she knew that this was only Jean Xiaotang's business method, Lin Muyu was still amused by her coquettish appearance. Thus, they bought a large pile of 10,000-year dark iron and borrowed another 40,000 Jin coins. They had already lost 60,000 Jin coins. However, Jean Xiaotang did not mind. The Imperial City Chamber of Commerce was a big business. If they could hold onto the thigh of a blacksmith and alchemy master like Lin Muyu, it would be worth it no matter how much money they spent. Moreover, Jean Xiaotang had always kept her promise and strictly kept her business dealings with Lin Muyu a secret. Otherwise, Lin Muyu would have long become the target of competition among the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce. Alright, my lord Lin Muyu. Jean Xiaotang blinked and said, Actually, if you need money, the faster way is to forge Dream of the Extreme. After all, we can raise the price of Dream of the Extreme to a very high level. We also have a lot of raw materials here. How about it? Will you consider it? How many raw materials do you have? Lin Muyu asked. Enough to forge 40 bottles of Dream of the Extreme. That's good. Lin Muyu nodded. How much do these raw materials cost? 20,000 Jin coins. Yes, pack them for me and bring them along. Alright. Jean Xiaotang was overjoyed. She knew that once Lin Muyu successfully forged these weapons, the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce was destined to set off a frenzied wave of business in Lanyan City, bringing out countless black and spirit-grade weapons in one go. In addition to the legendary Peak of Reverie, once this gimmick spread, wouldn't those competitors all kneel down and call her daddy? Jean Xiaotang felt uneasy when she thought about how the detestable boss of the Wulin Enterprise always looked at her with perverted eyes and wanted to poach her to be the vice manager of the Wulin Enterprise. This time, as long as Lin Muyu forged these items for her, the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce would be able to snatch at least 30% of the customers from the Wulin Enterprise. She wanted to see how that damn fatty would cry when that happened. Oh, that's not right. Her father was also a damn fatty. Jean Xiaotang's expression kept changing. Lin Muyu and Wei Chou felt goosebumps when they saw her expression. Who knew that this beautiful girl had so many thoughts in her heart? Miss Xiaotang, I have another presumptuous request, Lin Muyu said. Jean Xiaotang was already very obedient. Hee, Lady Lin Muyu, please tell me. Oh no, brother Yu, please tell me. Xiaotang will try her best to fulfill your request. Give me another 10,000 Jin Yin coins on credit. I want cash. Lin Muyu said as she touched her forehead. She was a little embarrassed to ask. This time, she had taken more than 90,000 Jin Yin coins from the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce without giving anything to them. She looked like she could pack up and disappear at any time. However, Jin Xiaotang didn't even think about it. She smiled and said to the manager behind her, "Give 10 diamond coins to my brother Yu." Her shout had unknowingly shortened the distance between her and Lin Muyu. Although Lin Muyu knew that she would definitely be taken advantage of, it didn't matter. He liked doing business with this kind of person. When they left the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce with 10,000 Jin Yin coins and a large amount of resources, Wei Chao's entire worldview was turned upside down. He said, "Lady, who are you? Why is Miss Jin Xiaotang of the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce so polite to you?" "You don't have to ask." Lin Muyu sighed and said, "I'm risking my life to earn money so that everyone in the Eagle Nest camp can have a better life. Look at our camp, it's no different from a pigsty." Wei Chou couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Then I thank you on behalf of my brothers." She gave all of the 10,000 Jin Yin coins to Wei Chou and asked him to lead a group of Eagle Guards and Royal Guards to purchase daily necessities. She also contacted the Imperial City's Stoneworks department and spent a lot of money to buy a lot of stone and wood. She also hired a team of 50 people to go up to the Eagle Nest Mountain and began to build her new camp with great fanfare. The other Eagle Guards were so jealous that they wanted to die. Many Royal Guards had lived and slept in the wilderness on the Eagle Nest Mountain, but they had never received such treatment. Chu Huayin looked at the construction scene in the distance and said, "You're so ostentatious? Aren't you afraid that Xing Yifan will use this opportunity to pick a fight? Did you forget how Lord Rong Hanyuan was executed? Xing Yifan found a loophole. I'm very worried that Xing Yifan will pick a fight with you and ask you where you got the money from." Lin Muyu took out a list from her pocket and said, "This is Miss Jin Xiaodong's list from the Imperial City's Chamber of Commerce. Don't worry, brother, I've thought about this thoroughly." "Okay, that's good." Chu Huayin smiled and said, "It wasn't easy for you and Yao to come to Lanyan City. It wasn't easy for me to get to where I am today. We must be careful. I'm Yao's relative and so are you. We can't let anything happen to our family. Do you understand, you?" Lin Muyu's heart warmed. "Okay, I understand. Brother, don't worry, I'll be very careful." "Okay, that's good." "All right, is there a hidden place here? I want to find a place to refine medicine. The Eagle Nest camp is so run down, there's no place for me." Chu Huayin muttered, "There's a cave at the back of the Eagle Nest Mountain. A 1,200-year-old black bear used to live there, but when the Eagle Nest camp was opened, Commander Feng Jixing and his men killed the bear and cooked it into a bear paw hot pot. That's why the cave has always been empty. If you don't mind, you can refine medicine in the cave. I'll bring my brothers to protect you." But Lin Muyu nodded happily and smiled. "Thank you, brother. Don't mention it." Chu Huayin patted his shoulder and smiled. "We're family." At this moment, a cavalryman suddenly rushed up the mountain. After dismounting, he cupped his fists towards Chu Huayin and said, "Lord Chu, a lady called Xianxia from the capital asked me to send you a message. She said to meet you on the 3rd floor of the Peace Restaurant tonight." Chu Huayin was stunned. He shook his head and said, "Please help me send a message back to her. Chu Huayin is on a mission and doesn't have time for the whole day. Let's postpone the appointment. Chu Huayin has let her down." Lin Muyu was stunned. She seemed to have guessed something and said, "Brother Chu, it's okay. You can go first. I can do it alone." Chu Huayin shook his head and said in a firm tone, "No, I have to protect you the whole day. This is Commander Qin Lei's order. Furthermore, I don't want to lose any more family members. You don't have to say anything else. Let's go to the cave at the back of the mountain." Okay then." Lin Muyu didn't go against his wishes. She ordered a group of Imperial Guards to bring the iron ore and medicinal herbs to the back of the mountain. She followed behind Chu Huayin and looked at his handsome back. She felt a sense of family. Chu Huayin was like a big brother, protecting her and Chu Yao from harm. Even though he wasn't strong enough to fight against strong enemies, he wouldn't back down. Chapter 137. When they arrived at the back of the mountain, the snow had melted quite a bit, revealing a forest of green pines. Some maple trees that hadn't completely withered had fiery red leaves, bringing a hint of autumn to this cold winter. A group of Imperial guards entered the cave with their weapons and searched for a while before reporting, "Sir, there's nothing in the cave." "Very good." Lin Muyu ordered for the iron ores and other things to be pushed in. Then, Chu Huaying personally guarded the outside, leaving only Lin Muyu in the cave. She fastened the torch to the stone wall at the side and found the most spacious place to place the iron ores and other things down. Then she looked to the side. Not bad, there was a small pool that could be used to cool weapons. Since forging consumed a lot of battle energy and physical strength, she refined the medicine first. He was already very familiar with refining Dream of Extreme Peaks. In less than an hour, he had refined a total of 47 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peaks. He packed up 40 bottles for Jin Xiaotang to sell and kept the other 7 bottles for himself. Then he walked out of the cave and found Chu Huaying leaning against the rock wall with his eyes closed. He was humming a guqin with his eyes closed. This guy was indeed an elegant person. Compared to uncouth men like Qin Lei and Feng Jixing, he was more attractive to women. Are you done refining?" Chu Huaying was stunned. "It's still early." Lin Muyu smiled. "I've just finished refining the medicine." As she said this, she took out 7 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peak and smiled. "Brother Chu, do you know what this is? Could it be Dream of Extreme Peak?" Chu Huaying was an intelligent person. He could tell from the look on Huaying's face that there were treasures in these small medicine bottles. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded. "Yes, it's Dream of Extreme Peak. It's very beneficial to cultivators. Sleeping for 3 days might be equivalent to 3 years of cultivation. Here, these 7 bottles of medicine, you, Feng Jixing, and Qin Lei will each get a bottle. Perhaps Her Highness Yin can also send a bottle. Also, give Wei Chou a bottle. As for the rest, do as you see fit. Sister Chu Yao and Xiao Shi have already used it. This kind of medicine is only effective for the first time in a lifetime. If you drink it again, it will be useless. Use it with caution." "Really?" Chu Huaying was extremely excited, and his face was full of excitement as he said, You don't know this, but Commander Feng Jixing and Commander Qin Lei's cultivation is already close to the peak of the first level of the heavenly realm. Perhaps these 2 bottles of Dream Return to Extreme Peak can help them break through to the second level of the heavenly realm. Especially when the Divine Might Battalion is becoming more and more arrogant. It's like sending charcoal in a snowstorm. Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Yes, but there's one thing. You'll be unconscious for 3 days. You must choose a good time, or else you might make a mistake. Don't worry, we know what to do." "All right, then I'll continue forging weapons." "All right, Big Brother will stay here until you come out." He began forging weapons and took out the spirit stone from his chest pocket. It was an 8,700-year-old thunder-type spirit stone, and this was also the best spirit stone Lin Muyu had. Whether or not he could break through to the saint rank weapon depended on the power of this spirit stone. He looked at the Burning Prairie sword again. In reality, the sword spirit of the Burning Prairie sword was a 9,000-year-old fire dragon, which was stronger than this spirit stone. However, at that time, it only used black iron, and not the 10,000-year black iron in front of him. Moreover, Lin Muyu's battle aura cultivation and fire refining skills at that time were not as good as they were now. The fire used to forge the Burning Prairie sword was the earth fire from the 3rd layer of the treasure refining cauldron. Now that he had the hellfire from the 5th layer, the quality of the weapon he forged would naturally be completely different. The power of thunder was powerful and domineering, so he would forge an extremely domineering weapon, a spear. In a cavalry battle, a spear could be considered the king of all weapons. If it was good enough, it would not be a problem to sell it for a sky-high price. Taking out more than 100 jin of 10,000-year black iron, she placed it on the ground and summoned the treasure refining cauldron. Immediately, the 10,000-year black iron began to float. Lin Muyu slowly spat out her battle aura, and the flames inside the cauldron suddenly rose. The scarlet hellfire began to burn the 10,000-year black iron. Moreover, Lin Muyu could also feel the vigorous spirit energy inside the 10,000-year black iron, as if many of the spirit energy elements were jumping in joy, waiting to be reborn. After almost an hour, the large piece of 10,000-year black iron was refined. Sparks flew everywhere as the impurities inside the black iron were continuously refined. This process took about 10 minutes. The entire piece of 10,000-year black iron had already become a fiery red ribbon flowing in the treasure refining cauldron, waiting to be condensed into a weapon at any time. Grabbing the 8,700-year-old thunder-type spirit stone, he placed it into the treasure refining cauldron. The outer layer quickly melted, and the hellfire burned fiercely. Not long after, the spirit stone had already cracked. It was actually a dragon-like creature, and its entire body was enshrouded in lightning. Lulu warned, "Big brother, it's a thunder-horned beast. Be careful, its power of thunder is very strong." As expected, the thunder-horned beast pounced over with its claws and fangs bared. It opened its huge mouth, and streaks of purple lightning gathered. It looked like it was about to spit out a killing blow at Lin Muyu. However, this treasure refining cauldron was originally Lin Muyu's territory, so the thunder-horned beast naturally could not be arrogant. Leaping forward, Lin Muyu did not wait for the thunder-horned beast to attack and punched it. 3 luminaries all-life calamity. Pang! Defeating the enemy with a single strike, the thunder-horned beast's beast spirit was destroyed in the blink of an eye. The spirit stone could only store no more than 50% of the body's spiritual power, not to mention that it was still in the treasure refining cauldron. How could it withstand the attack of the 3rd luminaries? The thunder-horned beast's mournful wails slowly seeped into the pile of iron liquid. Lulu also quickly provided a series of spear molds. Lin Muyu chose one that looked extremely dazzling. Slowly gathering her strength, she reserved a space in the treasure refining cauldron. When the iron liquid and martial spirit were quickly poured into the space, the spear began to take shape. However, this was not the end. When the spear began to cool down, Lin Muyu still increased his battle chi and used the hellfire to temper the spear's edge. This was because this was the part that could withstand the strongest impact. When the spear pierced through the enemy's body, the spear's mission could be to break bones or break armor. Who knew? Under the spirit pulse technique, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense slowly spread out. When his spiritual sense was close to the spear's edge, he could even see the fine structure of the spear's edge as if he had turned on the microscope mode. Therefore, the precision of the forging process was also raised to the extreme. This was something that he did not expect. The spirit pulse technique could actually have such a magical effect in weapon forging. The entire process took a full 3 hours. Finally, the spear was forged. Poochie! The spear fell into the pool of water, stirring up waves of steam. Lin Muyu quickly picked up the spear and weighed it in his hand. The spear's shaft was not bad because it was hollow. Otherwise, it would not be called a spear, but an iron spear. After thinking for a while, he used the hellfire to temper the spear's shaft and wrote the name of the spear, Purgatory Thunder Spear. What a good name, a lightning spear forged with the hellfire. After feeling proud for a while, he continued forging the next weapon. The second weapon was forged with the 6,400-year-old frost spirit stone. Lin Muyu thought for a while and decided to forge a battle saber. After all, he had not forged any saber-type weapon that he was proud of. Battle sabers were one of the most common weapons on the battlefield. They were large in size and were very suitable for charging and breaking through enemy lines. In fact, they were even more valuable than swords. He continued to temper the 10,000-year meteoric iron. This process did not change. Next, he began to refine the 6,400-year-old spirit stone. This time, it was much simpler. When the beast's soul broke out of the shell and tried to bite him, he easily subdued it with the one chaos of the common people and successfully refined it. He chose a very domineering and powerful battle saber mold, which also increased the weight of the entire saber to more than 50 kilograms. Moreover, the saber's entire body was ice blue because of the soul refining technique. When he swung it, there would be streams of icy air floating around it. Therefore, he named it the Ice Soul Saber. At the same time, he also carved the words, Ice Soul Saber, on the body of the saber, although the handwriting was slightly ugly. At this moment, he felt that the battle energy in his body had been depleted to about 30%. By the time he left the cave, the sky was completely dark. Chu Huayin had lit a bonfire outside and was warming himself with a group of Imperial Guard dragon guards. There was half a wild boar on the bonfire. It looked like a dried wild boar. Oil kept dripping onto the bonfire, making a sizzling sound. When he saw Lin Muyu walk out, Chu Huayin smiled and said, You're here. Come and eat something with us. We've warmed the wine, so it's good to drink some to warm up. Lin Muyu could not have asked for more. He took the opportunity to sit next to Chu Huayin. A dragon guard immediately cut a piece of fat meat for him and said with a smile, Sir Lin, eat more. Although the dragon guard's status was much higher than the eagle guards, all the dragon guards had to be respectful to Lin Muyu because of his strength. He chewed on the fragrant wild boar meat and drank a mouthful of wine. He immediately felt like he was in heaven. After continuously forging the Purgatory Lightning Spear and the Ice Soul Blade, Lin Muyu had already used up a lot of his energy. Now that he was eating meat and drinking wine, he naturally felt that he had nothing else. He couldn't help but let out a satisfied laugh. This feels so good, Chu Huayin laughed. You? Who exactly are you? You're actually able to master medicine refinement and weapon forging at the same time. From what I know, I don't think there's anyone like you. Lin Muyu didn't want to answer, nor did he know how to answer. Thus, he said, there are some secrets, it's fine if Brother Chu doesn't know. Anyway, I'll always treat Brother Chu and Sister Chu Yao well. That's enough. That's true. More. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, his energy had recovered quite a bit. He continued to forge weapons. The next item he made was the 5,100-year-old poisonous spike demon spirit stone. Furthermore, Lin Muyu had the wildest idea of mixing this spirit stone with 10,000-year-old dark steel to forge a longbow. Of course, he only forged the bow. Then he used a loathsome ox tendon that he bought from the Imperial Merchant Guild to make the bowstring. This was considered a great success. He asked for an arrow from the Royal Guard, then knocked an arrow. When he pulled the bowstring, the bow demon spirit Bao's Jie hissed from the bow. Then, a streak of poisonous spiritual energy surged into the arrow. With a whoosh, it shot into the distance and sank into the rocks. When he ran over to pull out the arrow, he saw that the damaged rocks had become charred black. This was a sign that the arrow had been poisoned. This bow was really good. It had automatically been coated with poison. He even gave it a domineering name, Demon Devouring Bow. In actuality, Lin Muyu already had a plan in mind. This bow was too much of a waste for her to use. She should give it to Wei Chou. His archery skills could be said to be unique in the Eagle Nest camp. It wouldn't be a waste for him to use this demon-devouring bow. Furthermore, if she gave this demon-devouring bow to Wei Chou, then Wei Chou was destined to follow Lin Muyu for the rest of his life. Chapter 138. After that, he rested for a while and forged 4 more weapons. He named them Gale Blade, Fire-Devouring Sword, and Green Rock Spear. Of course, since he had 2 stone ape spirit stones, he also had 2 green rock spears. When he wielded them, there was an unusually thick feeling that flowed into his palm. This was a characteristic of the rock-type soul-refining weapon. Phew! Lin Muyu took a deep breath and sat in the middle of a pile of weapons. He closed his eyes and rested for a while. About 2 hours later, he woke up. The depleted Do Qi in his body had recovered by about half. Another thing that surprised him was that the strength of his soul seemed to have increased a lot. His spiritual sense had become much more sensitive. He picked up the 7 weapons on the ground and left the cave. It was already the next morning. Chu Huayin rubbed his eyes and smiled. Are you done? Yes, thank you, Brother Chu. Lin Muyu wrapped the pile of weapons in black cloth and placed them on a carriage. After all, this pile of weapons weighed about 700 to 800 kilograms. If a warhorse were to carry it, no matter how good it was, it would not be able to bear it. The most important thing now was to go to the capital's trading company to sell these weapons and sell them for money to repay Xianxia. Chu Huayin still led a few dragon guards and followed closely behind. When the carriage arrived at the mountain road, Wei Chou and a group of eagle guards also followed. Wei Chou shouted from afar, "Madam, we will go with you. There is not enough stone on the mountain. We need to buy another batch." Lin Muyu nodded. After thinking for a while, he stopped the carriage by the side of the road. He took out a shiny longbow from the black cloth and handed it to Wei Chou. He smiled and said, "This bow is for you. See if it is useful." Wei Chou caught the demon-devouring bow, and immediately, a fiery hot spiritual energy flowed from the bow into his palm. There was also the faint roar of a spirit beast. He took out an arrow, nocked it, and aimed into the distance. Immediately, ripples of energy appeared on the bowstring, and the venom automatically coated the arrowhead. With a "so" sound, the arrow left the bowstring and shot down a flying bird. It didn't even have the time to cry out before it was shot dead. "Milord," Wei Chou had some doubt on his face as he said, This is a soul-refined bow, right?" "Yes, what's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked. Wei Chou revealed an awkward expression and said, "There are very few bow craftsmen among the blacksmiths to begin with, and the number of people who can refine souls can be counted on one hand. That's why longbows that have been refined with souls on the market are all sold for at least 1,000 Jinin coins. My lord, I cannot accept such an expensive gift." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "But this bow was personally forged by me. It didn't cost much, so you should keep it." A man shouldn't be so fussy. This, Wei Chou thought for a moment, then lowered his head to look at the demon-devouring bow. He really couldn't bear to part with it, so he nodded and said, "Thank you, my lord." "You're welcome. Let's set off quickly." The group continued down the mountain. Wei Chou carefully hung the demon-devouring bow on the back of his horse. Although he didn't know the grade of the bow, he knew how valuable it was. He felt even more respect and reliance on Lin Muyu, who was walking in front of him. Perhaps a superior like this was truly worth risking one's life for. Not long after, they arrived at the Imperial Merchant Guild. As before, Lin Muyu and Wei Chou carried weapons and potions into the inner hall. Jin Xiaotang was already waiting respectfully with a few stewards from the Imperial Merchant Guild. When she saw Lin Muyu's horse pulling the carriage, Jin Xiaotang revealed a cheerful smile and said, "Our esteemed guest has arrived. It seems that our goods have been settled." "Are you done?" Jin Xiaotang came forward and said with a smile, "Big brother your forging speed is truly godly. I heard that those master blacksmiths have to repeatedly quench and refine their weapons. They won't be able to forge a decent weapon without at least half a month, but you're actually so different from the rest." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and smiled, "I just have a few tricks up my sleeve." "All right, the weapons have been delivered to you. Miss Xiaotang, quickly have someone appraise the grade of the weapons." "All right." Lin Muyu raised her hand and placed the 6 heavy weapons on the table, causing the table to buzz. Jin Xiaotang smiled and said to the group of stewards behind her, "Call the appraisers over." A few minutes later, a total of 3 appraisers appeared in the inner hall. The first to be appraised were 2 green rock spears. They were almost identical green rock spears because they were made by Lin Muyu using the same mold. Regardless of weight, length, or pattern, they were all the same. The only difference was the 3 words, "Green Rock Spear," written on the spear's handle. An old appraiser with a grizzled beard slowly brushed his palm over the spear's handle and blade, feeling the sharpness of the spear's blade and the strength of the refined soul. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and said, "Eldest Miss, a mysterious grade weapon, mysterious grade rank 6. "Wow, mysterious grade?" Jin Xiaotang's small mouth opened wide, her eyes filled with little stars. "There's actually a mysterious grade, that's great. Big brother you're simply super amazing." Lin Muyu touched her nose, "So I'm actually that amazing?" Continuing to confirm, the other green rock spear was also appraised as mysterious grade rank 6. The Zephyr Blade and Fire Devouring Sword were both appraised as mysterious grade rank 7. Although rank 7 was relatively low, it was still a mysterious grade. This was already considered rare. Although there were many mysterious grade weapons in Yanlan City, most of them were controlled by the nobles, and some of them were in the hands of the generals. The Imperial Merchant Guild was the economic and trade center of the entire Imperial Merchant Guild, but they only had 2 mysterious grade weapons. Following that, the old appraiser's palm lightly touched the ice soul blade. Immediately, there was a faint roar of an ice spirit beast. At the same time, the icy air condensed into snowflakes that lingered around the old appraiser's palm. He immediately shivered and said, This blade is mysterious grade rank 5. Rank 5? Jin Xiaotang jumped up in excitement and clapped with a smile. The Imperial Merchant Guild finally has a weapon above mysterious grade rank 5. This is great. The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, and she said with a smile, Don't be too excited yet. Look at that Purgatory Lightning Spear. That's my proudest work this time. I believe it won't disappoint Miss Xiaoting. Jin Xiaotang opened her small mouth and stepped forward to grab the Purgatory Lightning Spear. She placed it in front of the 3 old appraisers. Almost at the same time, the appraisers lightly pressed their palms on the Purgatory Lightning Spear's handle. Instantly, countless shocked expressions appeared on their faces. At the same time, streaks of lightning slid along the spear's handle as if demonstrating their power. In the blink of an eye, the lightning condensed into the image of a fierce lightning tiger on the spear's handle, roaring at the old appraiser. Ah! The old appraiser's palms left the spear's handle, and he took a few steps back. His face was filled with shock, and the image of the fierce lightning tiger on the spear's handle instantly disappeared. The old appraiser wiped the sweat off his face and said, It's actually a Saint Beast's soul lattice. Heavens, this is a Saint grade spear. Another appraiser nodded and said, Based on the strength of the Saint Beast's soul lattice, it should be a Saint grade 7th level. Jin Xiaotang stood there dumbfounded, as if she was petrified. She muttered, How many years has it been since a Saint grade weapon appeared in Lanyan City's auction house? Big brother, you actually forged a Saint grade weapon. This is too unbelievable. Big brother, how did you do it? Lin Muyu knew what she wanted to ask. She smiled faintly and said, Xiaoting, our agreement is that you must keep our cooperation a secret, so don't ask me how I did it. Just cooperate with me. Jin Xiaotang was a smart girl. She nodded and said with a smile, Xiaotang understands. A total of 6 weapons are all here. Also, where are the 40 bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks that I promised Xiaoting? Oh, here they are. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out the 40 bottles and handed them over. Jin Xiaoting looked at the bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks and smiled so widely that she could hardly close her mouth. Big brother, I love you to death. You're practically the savior of the Imperial Chamber of Commerce. Is that so? Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was preoccupied with the matter of money. When will these things be sold? I'm in urgent need of money. Hee hee. Jin Xiaotang giggled. Don't worry, Xiaotang will promote them this afternoon. They will be sold at the auction house tomorrow afternoon. If Big Brother Yu is free, why don't you come and take a look? And sure. But I must keep my identity a secret. That won't be a problem. That's good. I'll be going back first. When he came out of the inner hall with Jin Xiaotang's receipt, Lin Muyu suddenly staggered and almost fell to the ground. His strength seemed to have reached its limit. Wei Chou hurriedly supported him and said, Milord, are you all right? I'm fine. Lin Muyu hurriedly used the spirit pulse technique to help himself concentrate. He shook his head and said, It's probably because I didn't sleep last night. Let's go back to Eagle Nest Camp. I need a good sleep. Don't let anyone disturb me during this time. By the way, how's the construction of the barracks going? We've already built a few simple houses. Even though they're simple, they're much better than the tents from before. If Milord doesn't mind, you can live in our own barracks. And that's fine. Try to arrange accommodation for Big Brother Chu and the rest of the Dragon Guards. We can't let them stay on Eagle Nest Mountain all day. Yes, I understand. By the time they returned to Eagle Nest Mountain, it was already afternoon. Lin Muyu hurriedly ate something and went to bed. His living quarters had indeed improved a lot. As the squad leader of the Royal Guards, he had his own room. The mattress inside was newly bought from the imperial capital. After removing his armor and lying down, he felt indescribably comfortable. The spirit pulse technique also slowly dissipated, allowing him to cultivate on his own. He closed his eyes and fell asleep in the blink of an eye. Chapter 139. When he woke up, it was already the next day. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense slowly awakened, and the spirit pulse technique automatically extended. Suddenly, countless sounds rushed into his ears. The whistling of the cold wind, the swaying of the leaves, the snorting of the warhorses, and the voices of Chu Huaying, Wei Chou, and the other imperial guards. Some were laughing loudly, some were whispering. Nothing could escape the detection of Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique. For a moment, he felt like his head was about to explode. It was not easy to distinguish and select the parts he wanted from these sounds. Lin Muyu turned over and got up. He retracted his spiritual sense. Eavesdropping on others was really immoral. He was not willing to do it unless he had no other choice. When he walked out of the room, Wei Chou greeted him with a smile. "Sir, you're awake?" Lin Muyu nodded. Unknowingly, Wei Chou had almost become his bodyguard. He looked up at the height of the sun. It was almost noon, and he started to feel hungry. "Sir, Miss Jean from the Capital Business Company sent someone to invite you early in the morning. She said that you must rush to the Capital Business Company after noon to participate in the afternoon auction." Wei Chou said, "The person who came to invite you hasn't left yet. She said that she must go with you." "Okay, got it." After washing up, Lin Muyu mounted the horse. He carried the Liaoyuan sword in the sword bag on his back and the pear blossom spear wrapped in black cloth in his hand. He was not sure when he would be attacked, so he had to be fully armed at all times. There were two figures in his mind. One was Xing Yifan, and the other was Zhang Baihe. Both of them had the ability to kill him in seconds. Chu Huaying followed closely behind with a few imperial guards. They rode on the horse and ate something before following the people from the Capital Business Company to Lanyan City. In the afternoon, the temperature warmed up a little. After entering Lanyan City, even their moods seemed to have warmed up. Chu Huaijin looked at the crowd around them and walked side by side with Lin Muyu. He smiled and asked, You forged so many weapons. You must have earned a lot this time, right?" Lin Muyu touched her nose. "It's all right. Money is just a worldly possession. I don't value it that much. How do you plan on spending this money?" Chu Huayin asked. Lin Muyu didn't know what to do with it. She pondered for a moment and said, "I haven't thought of what to do with it either. Does Brother Chu have any good suggestions?" Chu Huayin couldn't help but laugh. "I don't know either. Big Brother has never had much money, so he doesn't know how to spend it." All right then. Not long after, they arrived at the Capital Business Company. From afar, they could see many luxurious carriages parked in the open space in front of the Capital Business Company. It was obvious that many high-ranking officials and nobles had come. Many of the carriages' curtains were embroidered with purple flowers in gold. That was an emblem that only officials of at least third rank and above were qualified to wear. This time, Lin Muyu brought the 10 royal guards into the back hall of the Imperial Chamber of Commerce. Jin Xiaotang personally received them and led them through a few corridors before entering a large room. There were a few mercenaries standing guard at the side. However, when these mercenaries saw Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and the others' armor and insignia, they were all surprised. It was obvious that this group of royal guards did not need anyone's protection. They had the strength to look down on the Imperial Chamber of Commerce. There was no doubt about this. Whoosh! Jin Xiaoting opened the 3 curtains at the back of the room. Outside was a square that was already crowded with people. She smiled and said, "Here, this is our Capital Business Company's VIP room. From this room, you can overlook everything in the auction house. Brother Yu, You can stay here. Xiaotang will accompany you to watch the entire auction. Thank you, Miss Xiaotang. You're welcome. We're on the same side, aren't we? Jean Xiaotang covered her mouth and smiled. The cute expression of a young girl was intoxicating. However, Lin Muyu was from a business family, so she naturally knew that this was a means of communication. She didn't mind and nodded politely with a smile. Chu Huayin and the other dragon guards also approached the windowsill and looked down at everything in the auction house. Suddenly, he frowned and said, "Isn't that young Master Ling Feng, the son of the State General Ling Nantian? He actually came to the auction house. This is really strange. I heard that young Master Ling Feng has been cultivating in his mansion for many years and never goes out," Jean Xiaotang giggled. "This is enough to prove the value of this batch of weapons." Chu Huayin nodded. "You is really not simple." Another dragon guard narrowed his eyes and said, "Lord Chu, look, another group of people has arrived." At the entrance of the auction house, a group of armored guardian knights surrounded a person and walked in. The person in the middle was handsome and had an arrogant look in his eyes. It was obvious that he was not from an ordinary family. "It's Yuan Lian." Chu Huayin smiled faintly. "Yuan Lian?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Who's he?" "He's the son of the third-rank State General Xianxia. I heard that he just entered the Heaven Realm not long ago." "That's indeed not simple." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up. He did not care how strong these people were. He only cared about how much these people liked the weapons he had forged. In his eyes, whether it was Ling Feng or Yuan Lian, they were actually here to give him money. But then again, there were indeed hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the capital. Other than Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others, there was also a Heaven Realm expert like Yuan Lian. Even Ling Feng's power pulse was at the Heaven Realm. He was not simple at all. The crowd was bustling and more people came. The auction in the afternoon was getting closer and closer. After the time it took for a joss stick to burn, Jean Xiaotang stood beside Lin Muyu. She gently waved her hand and drew a circle in the air. Immediately, the supervisor in the auction house nodded and went to give some instructions to his subordinates. Dang, dang, dang. The golden gong sounded, and everyone in the auction house became solemn. Soon, a beautiful girl walked up to the stage with a scroll in her hand. She smiled and said in a clear voice, "Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, welcome to the Chamber of Commerce in the capital. I'm one of the managers of the Chamber of Commerce, Pan Xiaridium. If Miss Jean Xiaotang doesn't mind, I'll be the executor of this auction." Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and looked at the audience. Pan Xiaridium was dressed in a beautiful purple dress. As for her looks, she was not bad, with a score of 8. She could not compare to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, who were peerless beauties with a score of 10. However, if she was placed in Tongtian Street, she would be the overlord of all beauties, and her name was quite nice. On the stage, Pan Xiaridium was already skillfully introducing the auction items in the afternoon. After a long speech, she said, "First, let's welcome the first auction item." A burly man walked up to the stage with a pitch-black battle axe on his shoulder. Pan Xiaridium walked up and grabbed the handle of the axe with both hands. She groaned but still could not lift it up. The axe slid down the burly man's shoulder and fell to the ground, smashing a hole in the floor. Pan Xiaridium covered her red lips and revealed an awkward expression. She smiled and said, I'm too weak to lift this axe for the time being. Let me introduce it this way. This axe is called Mountain Splitting Axe. It's 1.2 meters long and weighs 78 kilograms. It's a third-stage spirit grade, and it's very sharp. The starting price is 500 Jinin coins. All right, everyone has started bidding. Lin Muyu looked at Jean Xiaotang with a puzzled expression. Jean Xiaotang burst into laughter. Jean Xiaotang giggled and said, "Brother Ayu, this auction will last for at least 2 hours. Of course, we need something to start the auction, so I found a few spirit weapons. You have to understand Xiaotang's way of doing business." I understand." Lin Muyu laughed and continued watching. The first auction item was actually a spirit grade. It immediately attracted a wave of boos. Lin Muyu extended her spiritual pulse technique and could clearly hear the young master of the state general's residence, Ling Feng, chuckling. She dares to use a mere spirit grade to fool people. Looks like Jin Xiaodeng doesn't have anything good to offer. How disappointing. As expected, the spirit grade axe did not fetch a high price. In the end, it was sold for 2,400 Jinin coins. It was won by a burly general. Judging from the emblem on his shoulder, he was from the Divine Might Battalion. Lin Muyu immediately frowned and said, "Is the general of the Divine Might Battalion that rich? 2,400 Jinin coins is not a small number." Chu Huijin's gaze was stern as he said, "The Divine Might Battalion is the private army of the Divine Marquis, Zhen Yifan, so they don't need to carry out any missions. Many of them work as mercenaries and work for others to earn money. They have also done many things like robbing and robbing. What's funny is that Zhen Yifan didn't restrain his subordinates. Instead, he killed the deputy commander of the Imperial Army, General Song Hanyuan, for the crime of farming. How infuriating!" Lin Muyu snorted coldly. A cold glint appeared in her eyes. Even now, she could still hear Qin Lei's unwilling roar. The dignified son of a prince, the commander of the Imperial Army, and one of the 6 great white-robed Imperial Guards had to endure such humiliation. Who would have thought that? Very quickly, a total of 9 spirit-grade weapons were auctioned off. The most expensive was the first-rank spirit-grade sword, the Green Rock Spear. There were 2 of them in total, and both belonged to Lin Muyu. The final price was 8,700 Jinin coins. This also made Lin Muyu relax. If these spirit-grade weapons could be sold for such a high price, then her mysterious and saint-grade weapons would definitely not be too bad. She definitely wouldn't have any problems earning back her capital. At this moment, a general dressed in the Imperial Army's uniform, who had the rank of a Chiliarch, shouted loudly, "Hey, Pan Zian, I'm here for the mysterious grade weapons that you're talking about. You're trying to fool us with these spirit-grade weapons. That's enough, hurry up and take out your shop's treasures. Don't force me to go up on stage and strip off your purple clothes to see just how big you are." Pan Zian's face was completely calm. She stood on stage and gave the general a ladylike bow. She said, "This general can't wait any longer. There's no need to rush. Next up will be the auction of the mysterious grade weapons. First, let's welcome the first mysterious grade weapon, the Zephyr Blade. 7th rank mysterious grade. Net weight of 82 kilograms. Exceptionally sharp, able to cut a hair by blowing on it." A burly man from the Chamber of Commerce carried the Zephyr Blade and walked up the stage. Sure enough, the blade was piercingly cold. On the blade, there were even streaks of fiery light appearing from time to time. That was the special form that only refined soul weapons possessed. Chapter 140. Wind Zephyr Blade, Mysterious Grade Rank 7, Starting Price, 4,000 Jinin dollars. Pan Zyiridium announced loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, someone below the stage shouted, 7,000 Jinin coins. Pan Zyiridium's eyes scanned the crowd and she smiled. The son of the Minister of Justice has bid 7,000 Jinin dollars. Is there a higher bid? 8,000 Jinin dollars. All right. General Liu of the Fire Sparrow Division has bid 8,000 Jinin dollars. Anyone else? 10,000 Jinin dollars. This is... Oh, please forgive me. Young Duke Shenfang of the Divine Marquis Constabulary has bid 10,000 Jinin dollars. Is there a higher bid? Even the young master of the Divine Marquis Constabulary was here, who in Lanyan City did not know the son of the Empire's god of war, Zhenfang. Moreover, Zhenfang was wearing a divine temple battle robe that was almost identical to Lin Muyu's and had a deacon badge. It was too eye-catching. Looks like the Divine Marquis Constabulary is also paying attention to this auction. Jin Xiaodeng covered her mouth and laughed. Lin Muyu glanced at her but did not blame her. After all, she was a businesswoman and was more concerned about profits than who she was doing business with. She did not care about the feud between Lin Muyu and the Divine Marquis Constabulary because it had nothing to do with her. After Zhenfang bid 10,000 Jin dollars, there was no response for a long time. Pan Xiuridium was about to close the bid when another voice rang out. 12,000 Jin dollars. The bidder was Ling Feng. Pan Xiuridium could not help but smile. All right, young Master Ling Feng of the State General's residence has bid 12,000 Jin dollars. Young Duke Zhenfang, do you want to increase the bid? Zhenfang crossed his arms and looked at Ling Feng from afar with an arrogant look in his eyes. He said, since the young master likes this fierce wind saber so much, then I, Zhenfang, will not take what others like. I will let you have this saber. Ling Feng cupped his fists and smiled. Thank you, young Duke Zhenfang. Lin Muyu could not help but chuckle to herself. It seemed like the National General's residence and the Divine Marquis residence were at loggerheads. Although Lanyan City looked prosperous, there were many forces and undercurrents. Looks like the Divine Marquis residence is not very rich. Zhenfang actually gave up so easily. A dragon guard laughed. Lin Muyu shook her head and said indifferently, no, Zhenfang is just saving the money to wait for the weapon he wants. The dragon guards were stunned. In the end, the Zephyr Blade was priced at 12,000 Jinin coins, which was already out of Lin Muyu's expectations. The next weapon up for auction was the fire-devouring sword. The final price was 13,500 Jin coins. Sword-type weapons were indeed much more expensive than other weapons. At this point, Lin Muyu had already sold 4 of his weapons, earning him a total of 42,900 Jin coins. He leisurely leaned against the windowsill and smiled as he looked down at the entire auction hall. The highlight was yet to come. Next, it's a divine weapon. Pan Xiurian smiled. Behind her, 2 brawny men walked over with a saber. Pan Xiurian wiped the back of the saber with her palm, and a layer of frost appeared in the air. She stuck out her tongue and smiled. It's so cold. This saber is called the Ice Soul Saber, Profound Grade Rank 5. The starting bid is 10,000 Jin coins. The blade is so sharp that it's extremely rare. Heroes who are well versed in saber skills don't miss it. Immediately, Zhenfang raised his arm and said, 15,000 Jin coins. Although the Ice Soul Saber was mysterious rank 5, which was only 2 grades higher than the fire-devouring sword, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Therefore, even the starting price was on a completely different level. 18,000 Jin coins. Yuan Lian called out slowly. Then, Ling Feng raised his arm and said in a low voice, 22,000 Jin coins, 25,000 Jin coins. Instantly, the scene went completely out of control. There was an uproar in the hall. No one expected the Ice Soul Saber to be so popular, and the descendants of the aristocratic families were determined to get it. Zhenfang clenched his teeth and raised his arm again. 30,000 Jin coins. Everyone was silent. No matter how good the Ice Soul Saber was, it was too much for a mysterious rank 5 weapon to be sold at such a price. Yuan Lian's gaze was cold and he did not speak anymore. This price had exceeded his psychological barrier. After all, the National Protector General's residence did not have as much income as the Divine Marquis residence. Moreover, Zheng Yifan had students all over the world. Every year, the generals who came to the imperial capital from all the provinces of the empire to present gifts to him could break the threshold. The wealth of the Divine Marquis residence was well known. Even Ling Feng of the National Protector General's residence cupped his fists and smiled. Since the young duke is determined to get it, then, this Ice Soul Saber shall be yours. Zhenfang nodded and did not reply. He ordered his servant to carry a bag of diamond coins to the backstage for the transaction. Unknowingly, the auction had been going on for more than an hour. At this time, the finale had finally arrived. 2 burly men from the Chamber of Commerce carried a spear wrapped in a black cloth onto the stage. Pan Xian walked forward and slowly held the spear's shaft. Vital energy flowed between her fingers. Suddenly, she shouted and her vital energy shattered the cloth, revealing the true appearance of the Purgatory Lightning Spear. Bolts of lightning slid along the spear's shaft, crackling as if demonstrating. In the blink of an eye, they condensed into the image of a ferocious lightning tiger on the spear's shaft. It roared angrily at the crowd below the stage, displaying the demeanor of a king. Heavenly! Saint Beast Soul? Zhen Fang was stunned. Ling Feng's mouth was also agape. Oh my god! The Imperial City Chamber of Commerce really got their hands on a saint-grade weapon. This, the trading house of Lanyan City, is going to change. Pan Xian's smile widened as he caressed the spear's shaft. The soul of the Purgatory Lightning Spear is a lightning spirit beast from the 8700s. It's a 7th level saint grade and can already condense a saint beast soul. This is the most powerful weapon our auction house has ever auctioned, so I don't need to elaborate on its value and significance. The starting bid is 30,000 Jin coins. If you like the spear technique, don't miss it. 50,000 Jin coins. Before Pan Xian's voice could fade, Zhen Fang had already raised his arm. It seemed like he was really determined to get this Purgatory Lightning Spear. 70,000 Jin coins. Ling Feng of the State Guarding General's residence smiled lazily and raised the bid by 20,000 Jin coins. It was as if 20,000 Jin coins were just a number to him and meant nothing. Zhen Fang was startled. He gritted his teeth and raised his arm again. 80,000 Jin coins. Ling Feng looked at Zhen Fang from afar and smiled. 100,000 Jin coins. The bidding between the two left the National Protector General's residence's young master, Yuan Lian, speechless. Zhen Fang gritted his teeth and looked at Ling Feng from afar. It seems like the National Protector General's residence made a fortune by excavating minerals in the Qinling Mountains. This rumor is true. Ling Feng said coldly, the National Protector General's residence is merely carrying out His Majesty's mission. Young Duke, don't slander us without evidence. Every Jin coin of the National Protector General's residence is earned in a proper way. Is that so? Zhen Fang sneered and raised his hand again. 120,000 Jin coins. 150000 Jin coins. Ling Feng continued to raise the bid. It seemed like he wouldn't stop until one of them died. Zhen Fang's face instantly turned pale. He wanted to raise the bid, but he didn't have enough Jin coins with him. He had spent too much on the Ice Soul Saber. Otherwise, he would be able to compete with Ling Feng. With a wave of his arm, Zhen Fang gave up. On the stage, Pan Xian smiled and said, "Congratulations to the young master of the National Protector General's residence for winning this Purgatory Lightning Spear. Please go backstage to complete the transaction, young Master Ling Feng." "Many thanks." Ling Feng cupped his fists. She turned to Lin Muyu and said, "Congratulations, big brother Yu. I thought the Purgatory Lightning Spear could only be sold for 100,000 Jin coins at most. I didn't expect it to be sold for 150,000 Jin coins. How scary!" Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Just the Purgatory Lightning Spear alone was enough for her to recoup her losses. Everything else was free. On top of that, she had used the raw materials to forge a demon-devouring bow for Wei Chou. It seemed that in this world, her treasure cauldron and refining techniques were indeed secret arts that could earn money too easily. She had to make good use of them. Even if she couldn't become the strongest person in this world, she had to become the richest person. On the stage, Pan Xian was still carrying out the original auction process. She smiled sweetly and said, "Next is the auction of the medicine. Oh, sorry for the long wait. This time, we will auction a total of 40 bottles of Dream of the Extreme. I believe that all of you know the origin of Dream of the Extreme. This is a medicine that can stimulate a person's potential to the greatest extent. It is priceless and was originally extinct on the continent. However, this auction house obtained the refinement of this Dream of the Extreme through a secret channel. Alright, without further ado, the starting price of Dream of the Extreme is 5,000 Jin coins per bottle. Let's begin. 8,000 Jin coins per bottle, I want all of them." A rough voice came from outside the door. Everyone looked over together to discover a formidable young general leading a group of Imperial Guards and stepping into the auction house. Qin Lei. "Big brother Qin Lei is here?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Chu Huaying also looked down the stage and said, "Yes, why is Commander Qin Lei here?" Jin Xiaotang was grinning from ear to ear. "Wow, even the commander of the royal guards is here. Hee, this time, our Imperial Chamber of Commerce is in the limelight." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Since Commander Qin Lei wants it, can I go back on my word now? Xiang, can you stop the auction and sell all of these Dream of the Extreme to Commander Qin Lei in private?" Jin Xiaotang blinked. "Yes, I'll do it." As she spoke, she walked to the window and crossed her arms in front of the stage. Pan Ziyan, who was on the stage, saw this and nodded. He smiled and said, "I'm sorry, everyone, something cropped up at the last minute. The auction of Dream of the Extreme will stop now." "What?" Qin Lei didn't understand. He raised the thunder-splitting blade and said in a low voice, "You guys stop the auction when I come. What kind of logic is this?" Zhen Fang, Ling Feng, and the rest all expressed their dissatisfaction. Jin Xiaotang said from upstairs, "Commander Qin Lei, please come to the back hall. I have something to say." Not long after, the furious Qin Lei entered the back hall of the Chamber of Commerce. Just as he was about to flip out, he saw Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Jin Xiaotang walking over together. "Chu Huaying? You guys?" Qin Lei's eyes widened. Jin Xiaotang giggled. "Commander Qin Lei, can't you tell?" The refiner of Dream of the Extreme is Lin Muyu. Ah! This time, Qin Lei was even more shocked. "You actually has the ability to refine Dream of the Extreme?" You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.